Don't you just find that the beat sometimes just makes you want to groove for a minute?
I always want to dance to this beat. I don't even know. You made this beat, right?
I made the guitar part, and then I just throw a beat to it every time.
Hell yeah, well, it's a dancey beat.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Deep Dive, episode 8.
Welcome.
It's your boy Practical.
It's your boy Rex.
Thank you, motherfuckers, as usual. Thank you.
I still haven't forgiven them for anything.
You probably never will.
No. We're always going to have a weird relationship.
All right, folks. Today, Rex and I are going to talk about David Fincher.
Ooh, and I was just talking to you about how I'm new to this focusing on the director thing. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a first for me, like really just watching a set of movies based on the director, not an actor, not because it's a series or a franchise, So this is really cool for me. I feel like I'm learning a lot and understanding more of the tone of the movies and the kind of directions directors or not directions, but kind of themes they use kind of repeatedly.
Right. The things that distinctively make it their movie, and you're like, this is a Fincher film.
Exactly.
This is a fucking, Kubrick movie. This is a
Michael Bay.
Yeah. Exactly. They all got their standout things, and when later in life, I used to hate Michael Bay when I was younger, and then I was like, he actually has his place, because you need your art house director, you need your dedicated horror director, you need your big explosion guy. And
aren't you a Bad Boys fan?
I love it.
So what was your beef with Michael Bay?
It was kind of the hive mind mentality that everyone has with like Nickelback and fucking,
okay,
at the time I'd just be like, yeah, fuck Michael Bay.
Fuck Nickelback.
Yeah.
I
so
Nickelback.
Later on, I grew to appreciate not only the Bad Boys movies, but a couple other things. Most recently, Ambulance with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal, though, to me, spells usually a good movie.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
great.
him or if he's careful with the roles he picks.
I think it's both.
But, like you were telling me earlier, your directors are the vision, so the movie, if you really like it and what it's about, it's kind of the director who made that happen, and the actors are just kind of giving a spice to it, but they don't make the dish.
Right.
And I don't know, I guess Jake Gyllenhaal is just one of those kind of just hitters for me.
Yeah. I mean, there is that balance of certain actors will just always be in great fucking movies, like Robert De Niro or Leonardo DiCaprio. That just shows how good they are, because they can work with all these different directors who have all these different visions, but they're always able to adapt and fit perfectly into, whatever movie they're going for.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So, start us off, Aaron. Where are we starting here?
We're starting off with, unfortunately, the only bad movie in this entire list, really, Alien 3. And, I'm going to just have to go ahead and say, yeah, it sucks. That's not an unpopular opinion, Mr. What Guy.
I agree. I just watched it before we did this podcast, and there are a lot of things I like about it, but I fucking dislike almost everything else.
With that said, Alien 3, 1992, what did you think about it?
I hated the death of Hicks. I hated the prison planet. I loved the trying to go back to that single alien horror from the first one, which they try to recreate now, where, Aliens was a military movie. It was a ton of them at a time. So it had a different type of horror action to it, where this one tried to go back. But outside of that, there's little tiny things I like. It's a terrible movie.
It's one of those unfortunate incidences in a franchise where it doesn't hold a candle to the first or second movie. It's kind of just there. David Fincher's first movie in the franchise. the first bad one in the franchise, because the acclaim for Alien and Aliens is obviously through the roof.
That's got to be hard to kind of swallow.
Right.
But you're the first director. It's your directorial debut, and this is what you gave us.
David Fincher does not swallow it, by the way. He fucking spits this bitch out. Like, he is fucking not having it.
No, you're absolutely right. He definitely disowns this movie due to the interference from just the studio digging their hands in something they shouldn't have. Like, I don't know how much they did that to the first two, but I doubt they did it a lot to the first one. So sometimes, hands off can lead to something way better. But in retrospect, it's hard to say. We don't know how much involvement they had. According to him and Sigourney, it was quite a bit. So I'm sure he worked with what he had to.
It's that studio interference that we talked about with, like, Sam Raimi and all of his issues with Spider-Man 3,
Absolutely,
Rob Zombie, and Halloween. And I think David Fincher famously does talk about that, where he's like, I had my vision, and given his repertoire, I'm fucking positive he had that vision, and they were like, yeah, well, fuck you. You're going to do these tried and true things because it's an Alien movie. This is what people are paying to see. So, yeah, you can do your stupid little scene over here, but just fucking know you're going to do our whole goddamn thing the way we still want it, and that does have to be rough.
I do have to point this out because it is fucking disgusting. I just want to say that the CGI, or the digital alien, okay, they use Thank you.
They're on your side.
So finally, because you have to be. So I'm assuming they used a mix of just a digital alien and a real one, an animatronic one, because the scene with it, like, in person looks pretty good. But then there's scene where it runs across towards about the middle of the third act. It runs across while they're trying to trap it. It looks like a cutout piece of paper just ran across the screen. It looks bad, and it could be the translation from whatever they filmed in back then to 4K. But my God, someone should have touched over that. Like, how could you let that be?
I think it's just because the movie is not well regarded, so they're just like, fuck it, we'll throw it on Blu-ray. It's a completely trash scan of the movie too. It isn't like, it looks slightly better than a fucking DVD. It isn't. Nobody cares about that movie. Again, not even David Fincher. He says fuck that movie. He doesn't want to talk about it. I don't blame him. I think that movie fits in perfectly with movies of 1992, where there's these tried and true slasher horror themes that movie tries to both fit in, as well as keep the things about it that are alien, and the two of those things collide in the shittiest, terrible pacing, bad editing. The acting is pretty true of a 1992 horror film. It feels real lackluster and shitty, and it's weird because the first two movies are directed by these prestigious directors who were obviously still just starting out.
Yeah.
But, Ridley Scott ended up being a big name. James Cameron was hot off of the first Terminator. So they're a little bit different in that regard. I think David Fincher was doing, like, commercials and music videos before Alien 3.
Yeah,
this was his big break, and,
it's a tragedy for him.
Yeah.
It is. But I will shout out that Charles Dutton is a bright star to me in that movie. I loved his presence. I loved his speeches. Everything about it. I loved him in the movie. He was a badass.
He's probably the best thing, besides Sigourney.
Of course.
Pretty much always good.
She's in the Alien movies, she's amazing. I love her character.
I love her in most things. I think she's tight. Like, even in, like, chick flicks and...
What about Borderlands?
Heard nothing but bad things about that thing, but you know,
Okay.
we probably won't be doing a deep dive on that shit. That's how bad it was.
I think we should.
Or we do and just rip it a new one.
Well,
I don't know.
Honestly, maybe one of us will love it.
Oh, it's such a bummer because it's an Eli Roth movie, and I kind of like Eli Roth. Especially Thanksgiving was a pretty decent horror movie for last year or whatever. And I had high hopes for Borderlands, but that feedback looks atrocious.
When they did the casting, when you cast Kevin Hart as the soldier, who, call me a lame. Thank you.
They got you tonight.
Thank you. They're trying to get on my good side. But when you cast him in that role, he should have been cast as the Gunzerker, who's a midget. Because I'm sorry, Kevin Hart, I suffer from it too. The short guy department, just not as bad as you. So I think it was just
2024, bro. Little people.
Little people. I'm sorry, little dwarf people. But no, there are tragedies in the whole industry, and I'm sure Eli Roth probably ran into some major stonewalls due to 2K and the studio, just like David Fincher ran into.
Or Joel Schumacher with Batman and Robin and, Batman Forever. Like, hey, we want to sell all these toys, so you need to keep our IP in this spot so we can market it and, make all this extra money. And I'm sure it was probably something similar for Borderlands, unfortunately.
I feel like it was. Like, you've got the head of 2K. I can't remember his name, but he's kind of a jackass.
Yeah?
He said a lot of crazy things.
Oh, you mean Randy Pitchford?
Yes.
That guy's a fucking buffoon.
The dude who said we're releasing Borderlands 3 on Epic because Steam's dying.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Wukong hit like 3 million concurrent players.
If you're listening, Randy Pitchford, fuck you, dude.
Fuck
you. Are a pussy. You've been a bitch since the beginning.
Like, you ruined aliens, colonial marines, and I'll never forgive you. While we're on the alien subject. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's not hard to just not be a douchebag, but you excel at it, my friend. So
yeah, I'll give you that. You're good at one thing in your life. Sucking dick.
I think they got you.
I think they understand. But next on this list, what a comeback. I'm just going to say, for somebody to do Alien 3 and then 7.
And that leads us to 7, but I did real quick want to say 6 out of 10 for me on Alien 3. Pretty crap. Slightly above average.
I'm actually shocked you gave it so high.
It's like a 6? Of David Fincher.
Is that really? Is that why?
That extra point is because I know it starts his career. That's it.
See, it's a 5, and it's only a 5 because of Charles Dutton and Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like their performances in it. I think they didn't hinder the movie at all. So it gets a 5.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's fair. And with that, 7, 1995. We can pretty much just talk about that movie and then call the episode good because he never got better than that.
It's a hard one to top, especially, like I said, for your second movie coming off of Alien 3.
Yep.
You couldn't have been very much loved.
No. But, he was still a filmmaker too in a time where Hollywood took more chances, and that one failure won't be the end for him.
R.I.P. Hollywood.
So, but yeah, back when they weren't little bitches about everything. But a noir classic, easily top 5 film of all time for me. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. Spoilers. I'm sorry, but fuck you if you haven't seen it yet. It's from 1995. Kevin Spacey.
Go fuck yourself.
It's too bad that he had to be kind of a creep, but he's a great actor.
Great actor.
Fucking kills it in this movie.
Kills it.
Kills it in most movies.
He does. Even in Baby Driver, he's got he's 10 minutes.
So sick in that movie.
10 minutes, but it's so goddamn sick.
Yeah, he's awesome. He just plays that dynamic really well.
Yes.
But 7, cinematography, acting, setting, atmosphere, story, execution, Fucking, it's a chef's kiss for me.
Look, Chef's Kiss, talk about that dude eating spaghetti to death. I will never forget the scene when you first see him head first in the spaghetti. Oh, dude. And
That was supposed to be a kiss if you didn't. It sounded like shit.
You trying to kiss me?
No, chef's kiss, bitch.
Oh.
Keep up.
You gotta take me to dinner. Jesus.
I don't think John Doe took that fat fuck to dinner.
I don't think so.
I mean, he did in a way, I guess.
He forced him
fed
to
his
dinner.
ass.
Yeah.
But for those listening, I'm also fat as fuck, so no offense to the bigger peeps. I'm a fat fuck, like I said. So that guy's a fat fuck. I'm a fat fuck. Motherfucking fat fuck. Nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong with that.
Except for bad health and potential overeating or being force fed by a serial killer. But yeah, man, I mean, everything about the movie for me is an instant classic situation. Even at a young age, I was like 12 when I saw that movie for the first time, which is probably too young to be learning about the 7 deadly sins. And,
It's a perfect time. They teach you at church as soon as they can.
Yeah. The difference is I can step foot in my living room and watch 7 and not burst into flames. But at church, I don't know about that. Just kidding.
Gotta put some aluminum foil on it.
Just a bad joke that the audience also agreed with. They're on both of our sides, so they can't be trusted.
Yeah, they can't. They're sucking up. They don't want to get fired.
Well, what do you think of 7? What are your thoughts as, someone who, like you talked about, hasn't really looked at movies from the director's chair, or so to speak, with that in mind? How do you feel about 7 now with that thought?
So first off, 7 is already great because it follows my love of movies that don't end good. They do not end good. Oh yeah, you did
say that.
When it's Paltrow's head in the box, that's not a good ending. That is not a good ending. The main character may not have sucked off.
It's a great ending, though.
But she did, and another spoiler alert, it's like the Dexter, the end of season, is it 3 with the Trinity Killer? The ending of that season, fucking love it, because Rita's dead in the tub. Baby on the floor. Yeah, back when it was great.
Yeah.
But no, so my love for that automatically puts 7 top tier for me because it's not seen in cinema as much. But outside of that, no, I love the whole movie. I saw it later on because when it came out, I was 4.
Right.
So not a good time for me to go see 7 in theaters. But no, when I finally saw it, it was probably early 2000s. Like I said, I got all those movies, in our conversation earlier from my grandpa, who just burned a bunch of Netflix movies back in that time.
I'm sorry, let me just back up here real quick and say, you were only 4 when that movie came out?
Yes.
Holy fuck. I didn't realize we had such a wide age gap. That's awesome.
91.
Yeah, that's wild. I literally... No, 95.
Yeah, I'm 91.
Oh,
it's 90, so I was 4.
Oh, I get you. So you were 4.
Yeah,
that's
I was
fucking
4.
wild. Okay.
No, yeah, so that's...
Damn, that means you were only a year old when Alien 3 came out.
Absolutely. Again, another one I tried to see in theaters, but couldn't. They wouldn't let me in.
You young motherfucker. Get out of here.
Is that a baby?
That's pretty wild because, yeah, thinking about it, I said I was 12. That's wrong, though. I was 10. I was born in 95, so I was 10. So I was 6 years, I guess. I guess I fooled myself with the 12-year thing.
I mean, 6 years, 8 years, it's
wild, though, to just think about, because how old were when you first saw it? Like,
I was probably about 10 or 12.
Interesting.
It was like early 2000s. I was going through a phase where I discovered Scream, and from there, anything that looked horror-like on the cover or anything, I grabbed. And I remember the DVD of 7. It was like that cardboard one that you pop the plastic off the side to unlatch it. And it just had that 7 with the red, and it looked like horror. Obviously, it's more thriller, more like detective thriller than horror, but it looked like it at the time.
It just fits really well in that thriller horror feel, like Silence of the Lambs. Like,
perfect
it's kind of like that, you know. Like
Yes.
it definitely is a thriller, but it's so horrific at the same time.
That's a great way to put it.
Oh fuck! And I love that it fits with movies like that because you got John Doe, you got Hannibal Lecter, you know.
And I also, with David Fincher, he's really good at the misdirect.
Yeah.
Like with Fight Club, which we'll talk about later on. I mean, if you've read the book, you know. But if you didn't, the way the movie's done is really well to follow the book, to misdirect you into not realizing, you know. But anyways, it seems like a thing in his style and what he chooses to direct. Gone Girl.
Oh yeah.
You know, like it's something he's good at.
He usually, what I was looking at with most of his movies when I was writing up my episode today, was that most of his movies, 80% of them, are adapted from novels. So he's always taking something from that point, and, you know, changing it. And Seven and Alien 3, I think, might be the only two that are not. They're all the rest of them are loosely based on some novel or heavily of the same name, like The Killer with Michael Fassbender, things like that. So
makes sense, yeah.
The thing that, I mean, Seven, fuck, it probably is. If we dig deep enough, if we dive deep enough, I'm sure we could find out that Seven is probably loosely based on something. Or you in the comments, you can fucking let us know. I mean, you know, like I said, if you catch some shit, fucking call us out, because we
I would love to know.
Yeah, if it is, it is.
Because I got to read it if it is.
That twist ending, though, for me, when I was younger, of her head being in the box and him completing his 7 kills with, which those of you, as you know, the movie follows Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman chasing a serial killer, and the culmination of those events lead to a gentleman killing in the ways of the 7 deadly sins, using a different example. And by the end, he fully pulls off envy and wrath just in one single action, and it's genius. It's great storytelling.
It's brilliantly written.
Yeah,
it definitely is. And again, for a new director, what an ensemble of actors.
Absolutely.
And apparently Brad Pitt's the reason Kevin Spacey was even in the movie.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I mean,
that's awesome.
Apparently after this movie, Brad Pitt and David Fincher became really close friends.
I mean, definitely, because he appeared several more times down the line. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, Seven is a classic. If you have not seen it,
you need to get on it.
That out of all the movies we're going to talk about, to me, that is still his opus. It's not overrated in any way. It should be a Criterion Collection film, like we were talking about. I don't know how the fuck that it's not, but so deserving of it.
Especially since the next one we're going to talk about is. But I thought, we'll talk about that in a second.
two more little thoughts on Seven. Is 9 Inch Nails doing a song for the Seven soundtrack. Actually, a couple tracks, I believe. Bookmark that, because we'll be talking about Trent Reznor and the connection with David Fincher and Atticus Ross coming up here pretty soon, and a couple things that stem off from those names. And then lastly, 10 out of 10 on Seven. That movie's a perfect film to me. I think everything about it is perfectly executed, from the casting to the soundtrack to the camera work. The fact that you never know what city they're in or what time period the movie takes place in. Two things that are infamously never revealed to the viewer, which I think helps add to the movie's atmosphere. You're not fixated on anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I just fucking love it. It's fantastic.
No, it's a 10 for me. Again, a movie I saw early on and I loved it. I've watched it many times. Even to this day, like I talked about that misdirect at the end when he opens the box, I still am like, what's in the box?
Right.
Like it's a great movie. All the ways he chose to kill people you know, with greed, gluttony, all that, were brilliant.
Absolutely.
Like, well thought out. And, you know, you're always like, what, when you see stuff like that so well depicted and portrayed and stuff, like, what are you thinking, dude? Like, what you got on your mind?
The sheer emotion captured by Brad Pitt at the end of that movie,
That's why he's a legend.
He's fucking, you know, like, I know people like him because he's fucking handsome, pretty, you know, Brad Pitt, whatever. He's a good looking dude, but he's a fucking great actor. And I don't think that gets said enough. Like, he really is. He's been in a shitload of classics, a shitload of highly regarded movies, and it all started, you know, with obviously much lower budget films than Seven, but he really shines in Seven. It is, like I said, fucking chef's kiss. If that soundboard shit didn't piss me off so much, I'd probably use it again, but it was crap. That sounded way better. Fucking record that shit and fucking use it. So that brings us to 1997.
Ooh, I was 6.
The Game.
I was 6.
Oh, okay.
6 at this
6
time.
years old.
Yeah, what a great one. No, I just watched this for the first time last night, and I fucking love this movie. It's the type of movie I really like.
It is good. It is really good.
Sean Penn's in it, looking nice and young. Michael Douglas. I really liked this movie. And at the ending of it, you know, had me guessing too, like, is this shit real?
Right.
I can't tell anymore. Like, I don't even know. Like, dude, it was definitely a ride of a movie, and I'm so glad I watched it, because I'm gonna watch it again, because I like Michael Douglas, and I really like this movie. It's these misdirects are what I'm talking about, and I love that he does them, and he does them so well.
It's pretty interesting that you like The Game as much. I didn't actually expect that from you. I didn't think you'd hate it, but like, I wasn't expecting such like a...
It's my type of movie, like Vanilla Sky, like
right.
These type of movies.
Mind fucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just don't know. Like Predestination. I love that fucking movie with Ethan Hawke. That it's just such a misdirect, and the way it comes around, like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
You know what comes to mind real quick? That you say you like movies that don't end well?
Yes.
Have you ever seen Funny Games, either the remake or the original?
No, I don't think I have.
That movie is exactly your thing. Like, the movie does not end well. And I know that's a bit of a spoiler, but I'm trying to sell you on the fucking thing.
Yeah.
But Funny Games is everything you like about a movie. It's the mind-fucky shit, and then it also has the ending of just like, all hope is lost, everyone's fucked. Anyway, you should check that shit out. I forget exactly when it came out, but it's a remake of an Italian film, I think, and it's shot for shot. But the newer one has, God, the guy from Boardwalk Empire, I fucking forget his name. He played Jimmy Darbendy. We really need a fucking fact checker in this.
Dude,
bitch,
where's the fact checker at?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
No, they're right.
No, they need to be fact checking. You're gonna applaud that we don't have a fact checker?
You think that we have a live studio audience so they can fact check shit?
Yeah, yell to us. You're an idiot.
Anyway, though, you should check that shit out if you get a chance. I think, based on the things you said,
I definitely
probably love it. But back to The Game, Michael Douglas. The thing I think of this movie every time I watch it, and when I watched it this time, was it almost feels like a precursor, in a not like gory way, but a precursor to Saw, with the like, we're gonna play a game, I'm gonna mind fuck you the whole movie. And while they're not really similar, but the tone to me feels like Michael Douglas's shit could be going on in the Jigsaw type world. And,
absolutely. Yeah. And the things they pull off in the movie, like that whole ambulance scene.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wild.
It's crazy, and the lengths they went.
It's a long con.
It is. It's a long con. But at the end, when he jumps off the building, after he thinks he murdered his brother. Like, I thought he murdered his goddamn brother, and then I thought he was dead, and I was like, all right. But then we got a fucking Vanilla Sky ending.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, bam, and everybody's like, woo! And he's like looking like he's been on crack for 2 weeks, just looking at everybody like not believing he's really there. Oh my God, man. Like, this movie was fantastic to watch. I didn't know what to expect.
Interesting. I don't know why that interests me so much. I just think
really like it.
His later career is so much more interesting, which doesn't take away from the game. I guess I just didn't expect you to like it as much as you're saying,
dude,
which is awesome.
I do really like it. I'm glad that I watched it, and like I said, it'll probably end up in one of my rotations where I'll start watching it more.
Hell yeah. That's tight though. I mean, it further proves the point of David Fincher and him just being a master of his craft, No,
yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, is this one based on the novel?
This one is based on a novel.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact name, but when I was looking everything up and I was trying to compile my list here, I'm pretty sure it said it was. As I look it up, no, this looks like an original idea, actually. Written by some dudes who are like a screenwriting duo. They did Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, which I don't really know how that fares in the conversation here. But, yeah, not adapted from a novel on that one. I think the first time that happens in David Fincher's career is the next movie, Fight Club. I think Fight Club is the start of him using novels for his... I think the game was the last, like, original idea composed with those other writer guys I just mentioned.
I fucking believe it, because although I think 7 is better than the game, I think it's a great third movie again.
Right.
So far outside of his first two are hitters. Just, yeah, I fucking love those type of movies, man. That's probably why I took so much to it. Just like space movies. Mm-hmm. I'm a damn sucker. Once it's in space, my opinion really isn't trustworthy. I'm just saying,
as fuck for it.
I'm biased as fuck because
I feel that way about gangster movies.
Hey, see, so everybody has it,
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean, you obviously can still step back and be like, this movie sucks, but I still like it because it's a gangster movie, or it's a sci-fi movie, I hope that doesn't roll over to the modern Star Wars trilogy. But if it does...
No, it doesn't.
I mean, I know it doesn't, but I mean, they don't know it doesn't, and that'll be for a good later conversation.
Absolutely.
Fuck those movies.
A short but long conversation.
Fuck modern Star Wars. Fuck all of it. I don't give a fuck. Fuck your Acolyte.
I like some of it.
Fuck.
I like that.
I mean, Mandalorian's tight. I like that. I don't think it continued to be tight, but I think the first 2 seasons...
They rock. Third season's
I liked them.
Lame. Third season's lame. Obi-Wan's sweet. Acolyte was okay. I don't know why everybody hated it so much.
I'm sure it wasn't terrible, but...
It wasn't.
I just don't give a fuck.
It was fucking better than the 3 movies they did.
I mean, they've already ruined everything they can ruin, so they might as well just keep pumping it out.
Don't say that. They're about to do that Daisy Ridley solo movie with that one director who's like, I want to make men afraid. Man, go fuck yourself and fuck your mom.
I could give a fuck about that shit. I don't care. I don't care if it's good or bad. I like Daisy Ridley. I thought she did good with what they gave her, but what they gave her was shit. I shampoo my crotch with that fucking idea. I don't give a fuck. Fuck those movies. Fuck Disney, Star Wars. Fuck Disney, Marvel. I mean...
Fuck Disney.
I liked them when I was younger, but this whole, I'm gonna run monopoly on the world of entertainment, they can suck my balls with that shit. Now Die Hard and Alien are Disney movies. Die Hard and Alien are Disney movies.
Yeah, I don't know what this world's come to. I'm fucking gonna die. I'm gonna die in this world, and that's a tragedy. because Disney owns Die Hard and Alien.
And it's funny because you'll talk about that shit online and people will be like, no, technically it's still Fox. No, bitch. Technically it's Disney. They own that shit now. They may not have made it, but they now belong to them as IPs. The fact of the matter of any future merchandising, any future movies are all under the house of fucking Mouse.
And Fede Alvarez said that Disney tried to interfere with the ending of the movie.
Yeah, of course they fucking did.
Of course, they're gonna fucking put their hands in it. They just spent how much money on that? Too much money, the bunch of pussies.
And that to me is fucking... Like, to think that Die Hard is part of that shit now. Again, more power to Disney for doing certain things, but buying up all that shit... I don't care if Fox was in trouble or not. Don't sell to Disney. Fuck you. Like, you know what you're doing. Have some aspect of your art remain art, you know? And again, I'm just some douchebag in my fucking, you know, in my house talking about dumb shit. So, what do I know?
Dude, you better look out. Mickey Mouse is going to come for you. I'll fucking kill you. Don't want to wear the purity rings.
Fuck him. Fuck him and his frozen creator waiting for a rethaw. But I don't know if that's really
Mickey
true.
Mickey Mouse and his bitch ass.
But the game,
Great
8 out of 10 for me. Not perfect score. Obviously, there are some things that, you know, I don't particularly care for in the movie compared to his other movies, but still extremely strong outing. Deserves the Criterion release. And sounds like a 10 for you, right? I mean,
nah, it's probably an 8.
Oh, okay.
An 8. I really like it, but I don't think it's as good as 7.
Right.
Not at all.
I mean,
I like it for different reasons. Actually, kind of the same reasons. But, you know, it doesn't have the same feel as 7, but an 8 is a great rating for me for this.
Hell yeah. Solid. Well, that brings us to one of the most overrated movies of all time. Still
His
good.
name is Robert Paulson.
Fight Club, 1999.
I was 8 when I wanted to be in the Fight Club.
Super big movie upon release. You know, there was a time where it was in everybody's top 10. Oh, you know.
Oh, man. It was in my top 3 probably till I was old enough to know anything.
It's a great film, but to me, it's overrated still. It ended up being such a part of pop culture that it really pissed me off because it was like, it's a great movie. It deserves those accolades, but I think a lot of people were just liking it for the wrong reasons. And if they read the book, I think they would have understood those reasons a lot better and they wouldn't have agreed with most of it because the whole idea behind that book is like, fuck materialistic things, and you know that's not the general consensus of the world. So I think they're super focused on one aspect that the movie shows, but not the whole big picture. And maybe that's just me being a pretentious fuckface. And
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that, especially on the book. I mean, I know you've read it, but when I read it, it was almost a 1-to-1, except the ending.
It's just the fine detail. There's things that it tells you about that character or what's going on that hone back to the whole point of the book that I think the movie, it doesn't miss the point, but it almost alters the point. And, you know, it's still a really faithful adaptation, but I think there's just a little bit of the point that's lost in people because of how big of a movie it was. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But, you know, I digress.
I do feel the movie is overrated. I really like it. It's, again, another misdirect. I like that shit.
It is a misdirect.
And it's a really cool one.
2 great actors again at the time. Brad Pitt.
And Edward Norton.
Edward Prima Donna Norton at the time.
Oh, yeah. Was he a prima donna then? Was he that famous? I thought he was a prima donna after this.
I mean, American History X was, 98? This is a year after. I think he was still
that's right.
all cocked up his own butt.
Bite the curb.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the sound of that dude's teeth hitting that curb ever.
Rough.
In my life.
Rough.
Ever.
He killed it in that movie, though. I know we talked about it once before, but And we probably will do a deep dive just on that movie because
absolutely, it deserves it.
It was important at the time too, and like they showed it in high school for me, at least some scenes.
Oh, they showed the whole movie in high school, history class. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, I think it's a great movie, but I think the reason it's so cult classic is because it really did speak to the generation. Like the words that Tyler said, you know, we are the forgotten generation. We have no great war to fight, no great Holocaust to whatever, you know, we're no great industrial revolution. We're kind of the blind children of the world now. And I think that spoke to a lot of people because, you know, when you're doing a monotonous job that you don't really love, you kind of feel like this underdog, this outcast. And I feel that movie just spoke to a lot of people, but people kind of clung too hard to it. And like you said, didn't really understand the movie.
Right.
And the ending, I think, kind of obscured it a bit.
It creates that line of like what's reality, what's really happening and what's not as the viewer. And don't get me wrong, I mean the movie does show like the anti-materialism aspect and the facts of life and shit, but I just think maybe it's just because I read the book first and it had that impact on me that maybe the movie didn't feel quite as much. I mean, it's still a really faithful adaptation, like I mentioned before. It's one that I would have to bring up in that instance. But I just, the point where it's just on everybody's top 10 list. And if it's that great, it's that great. You know, fuck it. If people still feel that way, more power to you. I just think it's also great. And it's definitely in a David Fincher filmography. So, you know, it's great. Like I said, almost none of his movies are bad with the, you know, just really that one movie as you'll find out. But I think Fight Club is still very important. It's still a very important film.
So, I'm curious, what do you think the movie was about?
I mean, the movie was just about the mundaneness of life and realizing, you know, you're not really that important, and you kind of want to latch onto something, anything. In this case, the Fight Club. You know, the going to the cancer meetings, you know, trying to find some sort of importance in life because everything else is so shit, and creating some of those things in your own mind because you're a fucking psycho in that case, Tyler Durden, you know, all of that shit. I just think that it pretty much shows what the average Joe goes through on the daily that might think deeper about his existence than the average tuned out, tunnel vision, you know, I don't want to use the word bottom feeder. That's a terrible thing to say. But, you know, like, someone who doesn't even give a fuck about a movie like Fight Club. Like, they're pretty much just like, whatever, that movie's got commentary on my everyday life, whatever. But then there's the people that think deeper about their existence, and they're like, I'm on this daily grind. I collect all this shit for what reason? What good does it do me? I feel no self-fulfillment. And I think at the end of the day, that's what Fight Club is at its core. And the aspects of your personality coming out so you can feel better about yourself. And I think that's what he does with Tyler Durden and Fight Club and Helena Bonham Carter's character. And, you know, I think at its core, that's why it's so relatable to the masses, because it highlights all those things. But it's a movie with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. And you're like, ooh, pretty faces and fucking good-looking dudes and good-looking chicks, because it's Hollywood. So it still bastardizes it to an extent, because it's a fairly mainstream movie. It's not like an underground art house film. You know, it's like a mainstream art house film.
It's an oxymoron movie where it lands in people's minds. Is it's the rebellious movie, and you like it because it's rebellious. But
yeah, it's like the punk rock the movie.
Yeah. I think you're pretty right. I agree, definitely. I see, when I think of the movie, I think of it kind of telling you that nothing really matters. Your obsession with your place in the world and the universe is so minuscule to everything.
Yeah,
especially
like an ant.
Exactly. And the ending, I feel, is what really puts that point, because the whole movie is Edward Norton figuring out who he is, what he wants to do, because he's not happy. He's in a mundane life that he's not happy with because he's searching for his importance. And then at the end, they do all this stuff. He tries to stop it. It doesn't work. The buildings come down, credit cards go to zero, but nothing really changed for them. Because even if he goes back to life, it's the same job, his same thing. And I think, what's her name? Helena
Bonham Carter.
I do not know how you even say Helen Bonham Carter.
Helena Bonham, like John Bonham Carter.
Okay.
Bonham.
I think her character. I don't want to mess it up. I'm already so bad at names. I didn't even attempt it.
No, I get you.
But yeah, and her character is kind of the spiral that kind of helps take you. Like drugs.
Right.
You think drugs are going to take you or make you understand something more. A lot of people do. Take psychedelics and they think they know the universe. And I think she kind of takes him to that place.
That's where it hits all the points, like it has he's like the clean businessman type, then spirals out. She's like the drug addict thing. And then a lot of the people that join the Fight Club are also mundane steel workers or waiters at restaurants overnight. So it's like, and it does a great job of all that. And the tone and shit is great. Like I said, it's a great movie. And maybe saying overrated is a bit far.
No, it is overrated.
I remember a couple of years ago, maybe a decade ago, where it was everyone's favorite movie still. And I was like, really? This movie's fucking 1999? I mean, maybe it was the people that I'm talking to. Maybe they're just fixated on a certain era or stuck in their ways.
What is it? The incels.
Yeah,
the incels are coming for
Fight
you.
Club.
The incel Fight Club.
I do think it's interesting that Jared Leto is in this movie, and he goes on to be in the next movie, which we'll get to in a second, but,
and
sick movie.
He gets his face fucked up in both.
Hell yeah.
Fucking both. He gets
little director's
specifically
trait.
In his face gets fucked up.
I do think Fight Club is very dark, gritty, almost a precursor to the Christopher Nolan era of film, where everything was a super serious tone, even Batman. And I think that's cool. I don't think that's a slight. I think Fincher influenced probably the next decade of filmmaking. Not just by himself. There were other ones. But I think Fincher and Darren Aronofsky and a lot of people from that time period were then going to influence the new era or the newer eras of thrillers and dramas, and I think that's pretty cool about it. You had, like I said, Seven is one of them too, and then Fight Club, and then,
I think also that is kind of sucky in a way, because as of right now, A24 and a few other studios actually put out original content.
Yeah.
And these directors, that you've mentioned, like Darren Aronofsky and all of them, they put out movies through A24, but I feel like through the generalized cinema now, like when we're talking like mainstream, like Frozen Empire or, even Romulus, for that means, like they're not so original. And they pull like, the nostalgia baiting, or even the new movies just don't have anything to them. But then you go to these indie movies and that's where you see it. And it's sad, because back in the 90s, like you said, directors had, or movies more back then, were just so much riskier.
They took more chances. And studios were not as worried about their return.
Exactly. And so you've got such weird movies. Same with the video game era. Like there was a time where almost it seemed like anybody's idea for a video game got fucking made.
True.
And I feel like it's sad these days, because the people you're talking about who are inspired by these people just aren't at the level I feel they should be, where if cinema would be in a better place instead of remakes and requels. It would be more original ideas.
Hollywood
hopefully.
has just lost its magic. Like, it still adapts books to film, like that more recent Blake Lively movie that It Ends With Us.
Mm-hmm.
They do it and then everyone bitches. And that's nothing new. People did that, you know, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, fucking Fight Club, you know, Great Gatsby. People, they have their qualms with the way things are adapted. So that part's nothing new. But I think the disconnect is the modern generation of film lovers. Their attention spans are so much shorter that the movies have to be different pacing wise to hold their attention. And that makes the directors choose different ways to convey their story. And I think that's a huge part of it. And all of you people listening to me right now thinking that shit ain't true, just get on Reddit. I realize Reddit is not a consensus of every human on the planet, but it is a good indicator of some of the thought processes going on. And I see the modern generation calling out their own attention spans all the time. And that's why TikTok videos are super popular, because they're short ways to consume little pieces of entertainment without committing fully to 2 hours or an hour and a half.
It's a shame.
And those might be sad truths to hear, but they are truths.
They are hurtful truths. And I think that's also the problem with cinema, is like, with these short attention spans, you know, people aren't going to movies for these offshoots anymore, except for people like you, me, my brother, you know, Brandon, Danny, all of them, you know, they go to see those.
Right.
But
we're all film buffs, though.
Exactly, but
so
still,
it's
like, the
for
average
us.
person won't go, which we need the average person to go to bring these type of movies more to the mainstream. But if people go see a movie nowadays, it's a big Marvel movie or something with everything going on.
And that's why the Marvel movies do so well, is because they're being made everything for everyone. And I've said before, maybe not to you, but I think I probably have. You probably heard me say that. Not everything is made for everyone.
You said
and
it.
That's okay. You know, that's the whole point of us having different music genres, having even different movie genres. You know, like Jamie, I work with her. She doesn't like horror movies at all. They do nothing for her. She doesn't like to be even remotely scared. So she doesn't watch them. She doesn't care if they're meant to be scary. If she's creeped out, she's out. And she tells me, like, I pretty much only like action movies, that high octane shit, Fast and the Furious, shit like that. Shit that I don't think is good, but I understand the appeal of, like, that's not for me, so I'm gonna watch this. And, you know, I think it's important to remember that. You fuckers remember that I said that, because I will be fucking saying that not everything is made for everyone.
Fucking swallow that
TM.
pill.
Yeah.
Swallow it whole.
It's just the way it is, and it should be that way, because then you have that room. If you're a fan of said thing and you cracked into the business, whether it be movies or music, for something like that, and you want to make your, you know, footnote in history in the same field, you should be able to do that, and your take on that said thing should transfer over. Like Tim Burton, he has a bunch of clones. He's got a bunch of people who were huge fans of him with the darker edge and the weird comedy, and he influenced a whole generation that is now a lot more restricted in what they do, because they grew up in a different time period of filmmaking. And, you know, I think that's one thing that Hollywood has lost sight of, and it's unfortunate, sad but true. Fight Club, for me though, is a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
Still really high. Like I said, it's not that it's
Wow.
bad. I never want to convey that. I just think it's one of those movies that's really overrated. And you know what? A lot of people, I think, maybe not a lot, but there's that niche fan base of people that probably feel that way about Seven. You know, because Seven is also always brought up. But I just think that Seven is fucking pinnacle, peak fucking David Fincher at his second fucking movie.
I can agree that. I can agree.
What do you rate Fight Club? Where are you at with it? Like,
Sticking it at an 8.
8?
8 for me. 8 is where I'm sitting with it. I think it's a fantastic movie. I love it a lot, but now that I'm older and I've seen it, a bunch of times being older and not such an impressionable kid, it's a great movie, but yeah, 8. I think 8's a great number for it. I'm shocked you gave it a 9. I really am, but hey, you know what?
I did grow up with it. I did, like I said, I was watching directors by 1999, like we talked about. I started to first get into that right around 14. I think, like I was mentioning before we jumped on. So I was aware of David Fincher by that point, and I'd already seen Seven and Alien. And again, when I was young and naive and stupid, I didn't give a shit that Alien 3 sucked. I loved that movie. I thought it was tight as fuck. And I loved the first two. And, at the time, there was just those 4. I don't remember when Alien Resurrection came into the fucking picture, but I had 1 through 3. Sure. I loved Alien 3. I did not care that it was a pile of shit until my mid-20s. And that's just kind of how that shit played out. And as we progress with talking about directors and actresses, we will talk about Jodie Foster, who is the lead in 2002 David Fincher film Panic Room 11.
Ooh, I like this movie.
Panic Room is a badass movie.
It is.
It's got, again, he's really good at having this ensemble cast, even if they're not super known. One of the people in the movie is country star Dwight Yoakam, who is also in Sling Blade with Billy Bob Thornton. And he's one of those sleeper actors. Like, he only pops up every once in a while, but when he pops up, I always enjoy, his performance.
It's funny you say that about the ensemble. He actually did 7 first, but he was supposed to do The Game first. Like, that had been planned out, but Brad Pitt apparently was available for whatever reason at that time, so he jumped on it and shelved The Game until he finished 7. So that's probably why they have 2 years between them.
I get that.
So yeah, no, he definitely strides for a certain cast. Like, they're big actors, but they're at the time they're not so big as they are now. Like, it's,
I always wonder how that works too, like, because you'll see in the credits for a movie like casting director and it's a totally different person. So I'm wondering, like, does David Fincher see that casting director's top choices and then choose based on that? Is he involved in that process of, we're searching for this style? It's weird. As big of a movie buff as I am, I don't exactly know how that process works. I assume it's something like that, but I don't. Again, I'm just making assumptions, but to have Jodie Foster, Kristen Stewart, Dwight Yoakam, Jared Leto, and Forrest Whitaker all pop up in a movie together is such an odd mismatch bunch of people that it oddly works so well too. Like, I don't know. It's just all-star cast, even if they're not super known, like at the time.
The craziest one is Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, because of what she's become.
And
she's huge now, but then nobody knew who the fuck she was.
And she's also one of those actors that hit so big, but didn't continue that. They decided to go towards indie movies like Rupert Grint, Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh yeah, him too.
Robert Pattinson too, absolutely. Yeah. They all kind of went for these more indie movies, like Daniel Radcliffe did Broadway. Robert Pattinson, that guy's done so many different roles. It's crazy how great of an actor he's become, because between Harry Potter and Twilight, I thought he was garbage.
Oh, absolutely.
Just garbage. Yeah. But what he is now, he's a great actor. But no, I thought of his, I didn't connect the two until I just watched it. I haven't seen Panic Room in I don't know how long, but it was probably before Twilight came out, because I did not know she was in the movie. And then when it came on, I was like, oh my God, that's the diabetic girl. That's Kristen Stewart. That's Bella.
That movie is fucking 22 years old.
Dude, don't say that, because that makes me feel like...
Can you fucking believe that? She's just like a little girl in that movie.
Yeah, too. No, she is. But 22 years old.
One thing I thought that was really cool, and it's actually probably the only other movie in the list, it's not inspired by a book per se, but it is inspired by a article or news clipping of panic rooms at the time, because they were really a big thing. You know, everyone's like, get a panic room. You don't know who could be intruding into your house.
That's crazy.
And the writer was like, well, what if I make a movie about that? And I like the shit like that. That's how like Nightmare on Elm Street got started. Wes Craven read some crazy fucking crime reported and was like, what if a guy with knives his fingers was invading people's dreams and shit? And I like shit like that. I like when real world events will influence a movie like this, because home invasion movies got really big later, like The Purge and like Strangers. Yeah, there's all those types of movies that became a big thing, and Panic Room was like, I'm not going to say one of the first, but it was in a way, because there was also way back, maybe late 60s, early 70s, there was an Audrey Hepburn movie called Wait Until Dark, and that movie was like a home invasion movie, and Panic Room gives me very similar vibes to that. Worth checking out if you've never seen it, because it's completely unconventional. Audrey Hepburn, she plays like a blind woman, and she fucking kills it in that movie.
That's crazy.
She might be deaf too. She's fucked up though. She isn't. She's got all these problems, and she still survives these total fucking psychos, basically, that break into her house. It's a sick movie.
I'll have to check it out.
You should, yeah. I think I have it. I think it's like a 1967 or 69, but it's good shit.
I like this movie. I like Lawrence Fishburne in it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker, yeah. That's right. I got them mixed up.
Lawrence Fishburne was just in all kinds of movies at this time period, so I'm fucking honestly surprised that he wasn't in this movie, hot off the heels of what Matrix is like. That's 1999.
Yeah, I messed that up. But anyways, I really like his character in it. He's, really aggressive, but he's still a good guy for, what he does.
Oh, yeah. And he was, you watched The Shield, right? Oh, no, we haven't got to The Shield.
I have not watched The Shield. We need to get to that. I need to get to that.
He plays a villain, a villain to Vic, the main character, so to speak, in that show during season 4 or 5. But he's creepy. And he plays that intimidating, creepy role really well.
Jared Leto in it, we talked about getting his face fucked up, and a total bitch.
Yeah.
A total bit. Like, he definitely well played the rich fucking troublemaking kid who's always out of trouble and came up with some plan off his bootstraps, but really he's just a fucking idiot and a pussy.
Just a common thug, douchebag, yeah.
Not even a common thug, he's a fucking rich boy wannabe thug.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Overall, though, Jodie Foster, she kills it. Kristen Stewart kills it for being a little kid, Like, child actors will bother me or not bother me. Kristen Stewart she did a good job. I think she kind of killed it. And you feel the panic, no pun intended, but you feel the panic along with the situation as it rolls out. And the movie is perfectly David Fincher, too. It has all the highs and the lows, and, like, you calm down with what's going on, and then you're fucking re-escalated it again. Though cinematography is fucking on point, and just David fucking Fincher,
This is one of his few movies with no misdirect.
True, yeah. Misdirects for him, they become less and less as we go along, actually. They're pretty much non-existent now. A lot more of his stories are so straightforward as he goes on.
True.
So, and again, I think that's of his era, too, because as a film student, David Fincher, probably influenced by David Lynch, king of misdirects and crazy weird shit.
And Stanley Kubrick,
who, and he influenced, everybody. Stanley Kubrick. I have a love-hate relationship with Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
I've talked about, like, I either love him or I hate him, which is hilarious because I like all of his movies, but it's love-hate with every one of them about something. Love this set of shit, dislike this set of shit. That's for another episode. Definitely a Stanley Kubrick deep dive will be in the next episode.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if I want them to be there.
They're fucking that live studio audience, man. They're there. But for me, Panic Room, I don't have a ton left to say about it. It's just a great movie. If you have not seen it, get out there and watch that one. Kristen Stewart, up and coming actress at the time, one of her first roles, if not her first. I don't remember what it said. And then, veteran Jodie Foster. At that point, she'd already pretty much a legend.
Oh, so, definitely. I bet it was great to get her into the movie too.
Oh, fuck yeah. I wish I could. I love Jodie Foster. She's one of my favorite actresses of all time. She's so versatile. She started at like 8. She's Taxi Driver, Bugsy Malone is a younger girl, and just, boom, Silence of the Lambs, Brave One, Carnage, that Roman Polanski film. I don't know if you've seen that. That shit's fucking awesome. She just kills it.
She's one of those few child actors who make it and do constantly good movies. Jake Gyllenhaal, Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Her, not Macaulay Culkin, or, like, some don't make it, but some of them go through and they have some hiccups, but generally great movies, and she's one of them.
Yeah.
Except I hated season 4 of True Detective.
Interesting. I love season 1 of that show, and season 2 is okay. For me, season 1 was the best. I don't think it's toppable. Season 4 was just more out there. It felt more like X-Files than it did.
But it had no payoff. That's for a whole nother thing. But either way, yeah, Jodie Foster was a great pick for this. And what do you rate it? What's your rating for Panic Room?
It's another 9 out of 10 for me.
Wow, a 9.
He's he's one of my favorite directors. So
no, that's fine.
You're going to be hard pressed to not get a 9 or a 10 out of me this entire time. To be honest with you. I think The Game and Alien 3 are probably my lowest rated, and it's not because The Game is bad, but his other movies are just that fucking good. How about you?
7.5. I think it was a great movie. I think it's absolutely great, but it's kind of just one of those classic, like you said, break into the house things that we get. And I think the Panic Room doesn't land as well as they probably hoped.
Interesting. Well,
that's just my take on it, but I think it's a great movie.
That's interesting. 7.5 it's weird just because The Game you rated way higher than I expected. And Panic Room 7.5 is not a bad rating.
No, I would recommend Panic Room to somebody to watch, like just a good movie. Panic Room, if that's what you got.
And that brings us to 2007's Zodiac. I'm gonna give it the Dr. Dre bump right there for a number of reasons. I love movies about true crime and serial killers, and I think a lot of people do in this day and age. Crime documentaries are usually really well regarded. We've already talked about Seven, Silence of the Lambs. More recently, Nicolas Cage starred in Longlegs. There's just that fascination with serial killer movies. The difference is this one is based on true events. All that shit actually happened. And I think it's really interesting and fairly rare that they take a concept like Zodiac and turn it into a movie like this with another all-star cast. Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, who else?
And this is the year before Robert Downey did Iron Man. So he hadn't had his real, full comeback yet, but David Fincher just grabbed him up right then and put him in there. And he does fantastic, but Mark Ruffalo in it as well. Yeah. This movie always makes me angry when they're in that scene where he's interrogating the guy who he thinks it is in that plant. I just want him to arrest him and beat the shit out of him. That scene just pisses me off. Not that it's bad, but because
it's so good.
It's so good.
You're like, you got your man, fucking make your move, bitch. And obviously he doesn't. But
no, yeah, but that scene, it's another scene in one of those movies I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think Zodiac is one of those movies where there is so much lore to the original events and so much shit since then that adds to the overall allure of it. And true crime people want. They always want to know what they can't solve. So Zodiac,
Yep.
From Hell by the Hughes brothers about Jack the Ripper. We never got resolutions for those two pretty big events, and it makes for an interesting movie. And we get 3 different perspectives in the movie, and I think that is really important too. A little bit bloated, a little bit long, but if you're into it, it really doesn't feel like it runs almost 3 hours.
And I like how he does the 3 perspectives. And yeah,
Right.
it does feel bloated, but probably because they made that decision early on. But
Right.
no, I think it's another great movie. And like you said, he kind of loses this misdirect. But that's not anything against this movie. I don't hold that against it.
Right.
It's another great one. And like you said, I like those crime, late night TV shows. I do.
Oh yeah, everyone does.
So-
They're huge.
So watching this and it actually being based on a real event and stuff, it just makes it more interesting. And again, like you said, it's a bloated movie. It's just really long and a lot of dialogue. So you have to be committed to this stuff or else
Right.
you'll fall off. But
yeah.
if you love crime stuff, like you said, those murder mysteries, this movie's perfect for you.
Yeah, it's right up your alley. It's right up his alley too.
No.
Because like he'd already done 7 and he'd already done Panic Room, so he's starting to dip into the crime foray, and then he comes out with Zodiac. I mean, to some extent Fight Club because of them being menaces and doing wild shit. So it fits him in tone, it fits him in execution. Again, a lot of great camera work.
I love
crazy good acting.
I love the feel of the movie. It has just this dark feeling, this ominous, like the whole time. Even when they're just having regular conversations or talking about it, there's just this like looming just cloud over everybody.
Right.
And it just plays off so well.
Especially in characters like Robert Downey Jr.'s character being just that fucking crazy alcoholic, but being so fixated on wanting to get his man, and like I like that shit. It's weird too in contrast because what is he's the journalist, right? He's not the cop, or is he the cop?
He's the cop.
He's the cop. Okay. I can't really remember.
I can't remember.
I didn't rewatch that one this time because I've seen it a lot, and I just can't remember. But the only reason I brought that up is because if he's the journalist, I really always love those investigative journalist movies too, where it's not always a cop, it's not always someone, a law official. It's like, well, like All the President's Men. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's about the Watergate scandal, and it has Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, and they're just investigative journalists trying to blow the lid off the Watergate scandal. And Zodiac feels like that, but with serial killers. And whoever the fucking journalist is in that movie, I don't know if it's Gyllenhaal, or I think it is Gyllenhaal, actually. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is RDJ's the detective. I don't fucking know. Either way, one of those fucking...
I get what you're saying.
Great actors is, just a journalist, and he's trying to get the story. And I think that is really part of what keeps us as the viewer interested, because we always see it from the cop's perspective, or most of the time. But this one, we get it, like I said, from 3 different people, and one of them is a journalist. So,
and I think you're just a little biased towards that, because what goes with like journalists and like private detective stuff is mobs.
Yeah,
who tries to always bring down the mob? Journalists.
Yeah, but they also always fail because they want their shit secret. So it's like, yeah, they'll get a lot of misdirects, which is true. I might be a little bit biased.
Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. I just mean like it kind of fits in your favorite.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'd like to see it from that perspective more than always just like, yeah, I'm a cop and I got to get my man. Sometimes it's like, I got to get that story. I got to get that I want to blow the lid off of it. And I kind of like that because they can be just as cutthroat as the law, but they don't have the law on their side. So they have to use a completely different means to get what they want. And movies like Nightcrawler, that's Jared Leto?
No, that's Jake Gyllenhaal.
Is that Jake Gyllenhaal?
That's the great movie. Fucking
what
creep.
A psycho, bro.
What a fucking creep, dude. When that person's dying on the road, but he's just watching, getting the pictures.
Could save him, but instead wants his story. That's some fucked up shit.
That's up right up your alley. Doing
True.
anything
And
for the
it's a
story.
fucking great movie, and it's again another Jake Gyllenhaal movie because you know that motherfucker is like the modern. To me, he's like, I don't know, probably bold for a lot of people. I probably shouldn't say that. He's like the modern Robert De Niro. Like if he's in a movie, I know it's going to be good for the most part. Even if it's only subpar, Jake Gyllenhaal elevates even mediocrity because he's just really good.
He is, like him and Leo, both. I think him and Leonardo DiCaprio are just such good actors, such good range, such good ability. And they were from that child actors too. They were like friends when they were kids.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they grew up surprisingly both to be just well-ranged actors. And, you know, like you said, with Gyllenhaal especially, like, I love all the shit he's done from Donnie Darko to Nightcrawler. Even Michael Bay's Ambulance.
Even fucking Bubble Boy, dude.
Oh, Bubble Boy. How can I forget Bubble Boy? Fucking love it.
I know.
Oh, my God.
Terrible movie, but great movie. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
It's got its charm.
It reminds me of Boy in the Plastic Bubble. You ever see that movie with John Travolta?
No.
I think it was like made for TV, but it was always on when I was a kid, and I was like, fuck this movie, dude. This movie sucks. But Bubble Boy is a more like comedic take on the same situation.
Yeah, no.
You know, love it.
Fucking Jake Gyllenhaal.
It's ridiculous, but...
Tell me, how does one suck a fuck?
That reminds me of that line from Knocked Up where he's like, fuck me in the beard. Just a very similar line. But obviously, you know, Zodiac is yet again adapted from a book, 2 books actually. Robert Graysmith, he did Zodiac in 86, and then its follow-up, Zodiac Unmasked in 2002, which was only 5 years before the production of this. So, you know, David Fincher probably picked this shit up along the way and was like, fuck, there's 1 book, not 2 books, and that's why it's so fucking long. So that's why it feels bloated, because it's cramming in 2 stories about that.
Yeah, it's trying to do a lot.
Pretty masterful, though, because it does feel a little bit long-winded, but when you understand or realize, like, yeah, he's adapting 2 books into 1, pretty fucking masterful. You know, Game of Thrones took 8 seasons to do that shit for however many goddamn books. I don't know. I don't give a shit. Fuck those stories. Game of Thrones is overrated as a motherfucker. Like, Sopranos did all that shit 10, 15 years before that in a different setting, much fucking better. Shoot me. I don't care what you guys think. I'll shoot that shit.
I think that's your bias about mobs.
It's not. It's really not. I was never impressed with it. It was the new big HBO thing, and I remember watching it thinking like, yeah, it's good, but I mean, it's like Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's good. It's not, to me, universally acclaimed good. Like, oh my god, you've never seen Breaking Bad? I mean, it's a movie about a fucking teacher who turns into a meth dealer. When you break it down into its most simplistic terms like that, it's not really anything to fucking write home about. But that's just me. I don't think it's bad. I still enjoy it, but I don't think it's as good as, just like Fight Club, as the rest of the world, even though I gave that a 9 out of 10. Breaking Bad, I'd still give a good rating. It's not a movie or a show, that I'm going to go out of my way to recommend to somebody. If I'm talking about, you know, a crime show, it's going to be The Shield. I like the corrupt cop angle a lot more, you know, and then they're not comparable, but they're all birthed from Twin Peaks and The Sopranos, and the focus on, you know, a new protagonist that might also be kind of a bad guy or not a good guy. And that's not so much the case with Twin Peaks, but I bring that up because the creator of Sopranos is, you know, he's always mentioned that without Twin Peaks, there wouldn't be Sopranos. Yeah. So when I talk about that, I always say, without Tony Soprano, there would not be a Vic Mackey, there would not be a Walter White, there would not be, you know,
fair.
I don't know how many people agree with that, but I think that, you know, Tony he's the beginning of that shit. I don't think we'd even have like Hugh Laurie in House without Sopranos, because it was just time in that era to fixate on one character that could be good or bad, or maybe a little bit of both. But back on topic, you know, Zodiac for me is another 9 out of 10. I think it's just hella good. The only thing that keeps it from being that 10 is being a little bit long-winded. With something like Zodiac, though, I do take into consideration massive amount of research and shit that's gone into that being like a 35, 40-year-old case. You know, I don't know if it's actually that fucking long, but I know it's a big gap in between telling the story. And yeah, I love it. I think Zodiac is great. I don't know how you feel about it, but
7.5 for me. I rated about the same.
7.5?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
I like the movie, but it is long. I do like a lot of it, but it just lands on a good movie for me. Like I never recommend it to anybody.
I get you.
Like nobody, I'm never like, hey, you should watch Zodiac. And it's nothing against the movie. And to me, I kind of put it at the same as like Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's a good movie, but I will probably never recommend it to anybody. Unless we're weirdly specifically talking about nuclear bombs and stuff and movies about that.
Right.
Then there. But just in general, like someone's like, oh, what's a good movie to watch? I'm not going to be like, Oppenheimer.
That generally just approachable movie for anybody. Yeah, Oppenheimer is not. I get you.
That doesn't mean it's not a good movie. Zodiac's not a bad movie at all. It's a great movie, but for me, it just lands in that 7.5 range.
That's fair.
It was great,
but
fair. If it's gonna be 8 and above, it's got to be something I want to recommend to people that they should see. And Zodiac would be kind of in the same spectrum, like I said, of specifics. If we're talking about crime movies, like murder movies, like we're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer, The Show and stuff, this would come up in conversation for sure.
Yeah.
But not in a general, like I said, like, what's a good movie?
You know, like, I'm trying to be entertained. Zodiac.
Yeah. I'm looking for a quick, entertaining movie. Zodiac.
Yeah, I get you.
So, I still think it's a great movie, but for me, 7.5.
That is curious. But not as curious as the case of Benjamin Button, 2008. Next film on the list. That's fucking curious. So curious that once again it's based on a book, this time by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which I'm sure most of you know his name from The Great Gatsby. The book was written in 1922. So the movie stars Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett in what is probably the first time that I realized that I fucking love Cate Blanchett. She's a great actress. Even developed a little bit of a crush on her. Very unconventional beauty, but a killer actress all the same. How do you feel about this movie?
I think it's good for what it is. I touched on this a little bit with you earlier. This movie is kind of like Big Fish. It's good. It's very quirky. It's very different, and I like it a lot. A little long, I feel.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5 hours.
It's up there.
It's pretty long. Again, I don't think it needed to be that long, but Brad Pitt's in it. Again, another Brad Pitt Fincher team up. I love it.
166 fucking minutes. That is a long one.
Oh my God, 2 hours and 46 minutes. Okay, so a little long.
Yeah.
But I do like the story, and I do like that it doesn't have a good ending. It like if you think about it, like he was doomed from the start.
Right.
And you see it, and then you see his realization of it, like when he has a kid, and it's absolutely kind of heartbreaking because it's not just dying.
Right.
Like he's gonna literally regress, and he does, to a baby again. And he already knows that he can't be with his kid for their whole life, because when they're 17, he's gonna be 17.
Yeah.
Although the case is different because he's a 17-year-old with, I believe, a regular guy's mind. I don't know if his mind really regressed.
That part I don't remember. Admittedly, I also did not rewatch Curious Case. I love it, but I've seen it I saw it a bunch when it came out, and I was like, I don't need to rewatch it. I remember it fairly well. So little details like that I'm a little bit hazy on, but I'm pretty sure he did regress in almost every way, because he started with a more advanced mind, and I think the middle ground was like his adult era, and then obviously going backwards. And it's I don't know. It's a weird film. I remember being fairly confused by it at the time. I was like, he's aging in reverse. What the fuck? And apparently it's a rare disease that can exist, but it not quite to the extent of what they do in the film. They obviously take it to
a whole
some different level. Yeah, like some things that, you know, you would probably not see in that situation, and that makes for a pretty entertaining movie. And also, I'm pretty sure this one was based on the book, like we said. Yeah, the F. Scott Fitzgerald. So it's another adaptation for him. So he's probably taking a bunch of liberties. I've never read that book. I don't even like The Great Gatsby, so I ain't reading another book by that fucker. I don't care how important he is to literature. Fuck him. Fuck The Great Gatsby. But this movie's tight. I'll give him this
movie is tight.
But again, that's a David Fincher. I don't think F. Fitzgerald's got anything to do with this.
It's his attempt at Forrest Gump.
He's just from a different time. I shouldn't even be talking shit. Like, he was writing movies about, like, the jazz scene and the socialite shit of that time period, and I just don't give a fuck about any of that shit. But Benjamin Button, I remember I saw it in the theater at the time. Again, I was already well on my director kick. So it was an anticipated movie. I think it was really well done. Again, I think you can say that about literally every single one of his movies, even a movie about fucking Facebook. He just kills it. And no matter what he's approaching, David Fincher has all those qualities that just, to me, make up a great filmmaker. And taking a story like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button is him doing exactly that. He's taking something that's pretty unfamiliar to people and making it accessible and entertaining. And, you know, again, is it a movie you will recommend to people, though? I think that's something you always have to ask yourself.
So here's the thing. Yeah, I said it falls in line with like that movie Big Fish, this one, and Forrest Gump.
Right.
It's got that just kind of feel good, but not, because Forrest Gump doesn't generally have a happy ending.
Right.
It does, but it doesn't. Same with this one. It doesn't have a bad ending, but it doesn't have a great ending.
Yeah, no doubt.
So would I recommend Benjamin Button? Probably not.
But would you recommend Forrest Gump?
Yeah. If someone has never seen Forrest Gump, I think it's a tragedy. Do I think Forrest Gump is the film of our time? No, but I think it's a film people should see because it is just good.
So if Benjamin Button reminds you of Forrest Gump, and that's the basis for it reminding you of that, why is Gump more recommendable than Button?
I don't know. I can't say.
Is it because
maybe
of the, like, pop culture shit and like the historical relevance in Forrest Gump versus this?
No, I just don't think, because I think Big Fish falls in this category too, but I don't recommend that to other people over Forrest Gump. Like, I'm not as shocking. So it could partially be that, but Forrest Gump was also one of those movies I watched on repeat as a kid. So I might have a little bias to it. But outside of that, I feel maybe because it's not as fantastical.
Yeah, I could see
so
that.
It's easier to digest as just a good, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly why, but
I get what you mean. That feel-good drama. I understand where you're going with it.
That's what
I was just curious, like, if Forrest Gump is recommendable, what about Button isn't? Because I think that is an interesting conversation all in itself. Like,
definitely.
There are these similarities, and the general tone and feeling reminds you of that. Or like that movie, The Help. I always feel like The Help is in the same tone with Emma Stone as Forrest Gump is as well. Like, if I was bringing up The Help, I always tell people, if you like Forrest Gump, maybe you'll like The Help, because it has that same air of comedic value, even though it's like a family drama feeling / adult drama. It's like right in that fucking fine line.
No, exactly.
And that's why I was curious, because it's like I will make weird draws to Forrest Gump, but then I will be like, yeah, I wouldn't really recommend that movie to that person, though.
But if we were talking on a conversation about movies like Forrest Gump, I would absolutely recommend Benjamin Button or Big Fish.
Right.
But just off a basis of that, like if someone's like, hey, I want kind of a funny, like adult, like just feel goodish movie, it, you know, kind of heavier on the ish, then I would be like, hey, Forrest Gump, have you ever seen that? If they have, I'd be like, oh, well, what about Big Fish or Benjamin Button? Because
Right.
I don't know, those would be the two I'd kind of go for that.
I see it. Yeah.
Where,
I see
yeah,
it.
that's just kind of how I feel those movies. They kind of feel the same to me when I watch them, but maybe I don't hold Benjamin Button and Big Fish as high as Forrest Gump, maybe because of the cultural, quote unquote, importance of it, or because I have that bias from loving it as a kid. I can't say, but that's just kind of how it shows up for me.
Did you know that Forrest Gump is also based on a book? And that book has a sequel book as well?
I know it's based on a book. Didn't know it had a sequel. Not interested.
It's called like Bubba Gump
Has
Fish
AIDS?
Company or something like that.
Oh.
It's about Bubba. Actually, I don't know if it's about Bubba because I don't know if Bubba dies.
He dies in Gump.
I know he does in the movie, but I don't know if he dies in the book.
That's
and then
right,
it is
yeah.
like if he comes back in the sequel because it's something about some fucking fish, shrimp, and boat bullshit in the sequel. But anyway, it's just always interesting to find that shit out. Like, oh yeah, there's a sequel to that critically acclaimed movie, but nobody's done the sequel book. Why?
Well, they should do that more often. Case in point, the Da Vinci Code did that sequel, which is a prequel, but a sequel of Angels and Demons.
Yeah.
That movie wasn't that good.
But counter argument, Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, all books, all written by Thomas Harris. Manhunter was first,
Yeah.
which then we got Silence of the Lambs later, and then they were like, oh, everybody loves Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal, so we'll go back and redo Manhunter and call it Red Dragon because that's what the book is originally called anyway. So you do those 3 parts, and for me, Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs work, but Hannibal as a movie didn't really work as well. So it's weird. Sometimes they'll do the first one, the second one, the third one, and it's lukewarm, and then sometimes they'll be like, only the first one, because we don't want to risk Bubba Gump Shrimp Co. or whatever the fuck their reasoning is.
It's funny you bring those movies up specifically because me and my brother just went through and watched them all, and I learned quite a bit about them. So that'll be another deep dive we'll have to do. But
I'm a huge fan.
Speaking of the third movie, or not the third movie, sorry, but speaking of that, not all of them should be stopped because you get golden gems like that, the Harry Potter series, for some the Twilight, and other things. But it's
fucking hear about some goddamn Twilight bullshit.
That's your favorite guilty pleasure.
Twilight sucks, dude. That shit is like teeny bopping fucking. I love vampire. I always think about Stanley's fucking the shit he says in The Office, where like he's like, "How many freaking vampires am I supposed to care about?" That shit makes me laugh every time whenever I hear Twilight and shit. But no, like I know Twilight was popular to the youngins at the time, and same thing with Harry Potter, and I get it, but those didn't have that effect on me in that way, so I'm always like, fuck Twilight. Not because I don't like the movies. I do not like the movies. I'm being very clear with that, but they just don't really seem like my cup of tea. My era's version of that was what we were talking about earlier with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So
I think
same shit, different day.
It's fair. I've read the first 2 books. I've watched most of the movies because girls love those movies.
Yeah, they do.
I can't tell you how many times I watched the first one with Michaela.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen the first one just on random dates. Like, you want to watch Twilight? No, I don't.
No.
But hey,
whatever you want.
Sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet and watch something you're not used to because you never know, you could like it. There are plenty of instances where like I don't expect to like a movie like Legally Blonde, and then I watch the movie and like, that movie's actually pretty fucking good. It's pretty funny. It's not directed towards me in particular, but I walk away entertained, and I think that's what movies can do for everybody.
Bringing that up, one I did not think I would like, and I kind of put it on as a kind of whatever, but it was a smash hit with me and my brother.
A smash hit, he says.
For me. and hey, I want to confine what I said to these type of movies don't normally land with me. and it's called If You Were the Last, and it's a rom-com, but it's done. I didn't think it was going to be good.
I gotta look that shit up. I don't know what it is.
I got it right here. It was done in 2023, and it's actually a Peacock original, so it's only on Peacock. But if you have the chance, watch it. And it's a space movie, so first off, it's already got that win.
Of course.
Thank you. Space is great. But,
I told you they were on your side.
But it's a good movie, and it was just one of those surprises. It's about two astronauts who have a mishap on the ship, and they're stuck in space floating, and they think they'll never return home, so they start talking about having sex.
Okay. Interesting.
It's funny. It's the way they do the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to watch it because I want your opinion. But anyways,
I'll check it out.
Off the subject.
I see it does have Clarence, and him and his parents have a real good marriage.
You really had to do that? Okay. All right.
Oh, I got the double drag.
You got the double drag.
That's how you know it was fucking good. Got that double drag.
I just love the reference. It was great. That'll never not be good with him.
Yeah, no, you see it even online in hella memes.
It's so good.
Oh, man. I like Anthony Mackie as an actor, though.
He's good.
He was tight in that Twisted Metal series. I really
haven't watched
that.
it yet.
Are you a fan of the games?
Yeah. Oh, I love 2. 2 on the PS1. One of my favorite games.
You gotta watch that show. I'll watch this fucking If You Were the Last, but you gotta watch Twisted Metal. Not necessarily the fairest of trades, because one's like
I need to watch Twisted Metal. I've meant to.
Yeah.
But
it's tight. It's good.
I really want you to know. I want to know what you think about that movie, just because.
I will get to it for sure. I also need to watch that Passengers movie with Jennifer Lawrence and.
No, you don't.
I've heard it was really good. Your brother loves it. He told me.
Yeah, but my brother's like me. We're biased. If it's in space, I like it. But if I were to watch it and not love space movies, it's eh.
I mean, I do. I don't probably love them as much as you, but
man,
I'm a sucker for that setting. Just like, if you do a Western in the right setting, it can be awesome.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It doesn't always land. So, but yeah, overall, Curious Case, 8 out of 10 for me. I realize we get off topic here and there, but we're talking movies.
We're talking
it's bound
movies.
to fucking happen.
We're people.
We're spitballing. We do these conversations largely on the spot because we want that organic feel. So, and when you're talking about movies, there's always going to be that off branch of shit, right? Because you're talking about directors, you're talking about actors.
There's so much that goes into it.
Right.
It's hard to not branch off.
And that's why we deep dive. Yeah, that's why we fucking deep dive.
That's why we fucking rock.
All dive. Yeah. 8 out of 10. Curious Case. You can say 7.5.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You motherfucker.
Hey.
You son of a. At least he is consistent for you. I mean, he is. He ain't failing. So
he doesn't. None of his movies are bad except Alien. But I'm gonna be frank here. I haven't seen his 2 newest, Mank and The Killer.
Mm-hmm.
That was my bad. That was my bad.
We have lives,
Life has got in the way, and I haven't even had a real weekend.
Yeah, and
I know you know that. You understand.
Yeah, and I'm always fucking watching movies. On my days off, I'll watch like 4 or 5 in a row. So I'm always trying to do that, and I just had happened to have seen Mank and The Killer when they came out because I follow Fincher, like I said. So
I love Fassbender too, so I need to see The Killer.
Dude,
I just like him.
I've got a lot to say about it at the end here.
I can't wait
because it does a lot of things great, but I don't want to spoil it just yet. So,
but what's
Social
next on
Network,
our list?
We got 2010. We got Jesse Eisenberg kind of dropping into the scene. Was this before or after Zombieland? I think it was before. No, same time. Hard to say. I think
this is after Zombieland. Is Zombieland like 2008?
We can't get a fact checker in this bitch. So anytime we stall in an episode,
useless.
So 2009.
Okay,
Weirdly enough, the year before this movie, and great in Zombieland. I remember loving that movie and being like, oh, I bet he could do some serious shit. He's one of those crossover actors.
Yeah.
And then here he is, fucking just another good cast. Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield. I like Justin Timberlake as an actor.
I do too.
I think he's pretty good. Yeah, exact. Alpha Dog, In Time.
In Time.
That movie is so sick, dude.
Never talked about enough. Never talked about enough.
It's like a futuristic Bonnie and Clyde. That movie is so sick.
The idea of time, absolutely fantastic.
I remember being sad in that movie when his mom ran out of time.
Dude.
I was like...
Right there.
Fuck.
He was running.
Yeah. He was running.
He was
like
Jenna,
hitting that Forrest Gump. Yeah, I mean Jesse Eisenberg. Everyone does a great job, but he carries the movie. He has to convey this total dickhead, which Zuckerberg has come out, and the person that fucking Garfield is playing, and Timberlake was playing fucking the Napster guy, which is awesome. But they've all kind of largely discredited the overall facts of this movie, or at least say that it's a very fabricated version of those events.
Well, let's be honest, nobody's painted in a good light, so nobody's gonna be like, hey, that movie, that's exactly me. I'm a douchebag. But
the detail that went into it, regardless, we're talking about a movie about the creation of arguably the biggest...
It is the biggest
internet thing,
platform.
Sensation of all time. Yeah, Facebook,
Facebook, yeah. If you guys don't know who Zuckerberg is by now, I don't know where you're living.
Yeah,
but
are we from Mars or some shit? Like,
I got to tell you, you are wrong. I don't think Jesse Eisenberg does a great role in the movie, but Andrew Garfield in this movie completely blows him out of the water. Andrew Garfield, the reaction you get when he finds out he's been cut out of Facebook, that's that 4-minute scene. Andrew Garfield is incredible. Like, it's so crazy to think that he was Spider-Man.
Wait, yeah.
I no offense to Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man, but you don't need a huge range for him. Not a huge one. But Andrew Garfield has the chops, and in that one scene, it's like the best scene in the movie.
I think a big difference to keep in mind, though, is Garfield was already coming off like plays, and he's a British actor, so his acting exposure and longevity was already, even in 2010, a lot more than Eisenberg had bit off. Eisenberg was in Zombieland, like Adventureland, really weird comedic timing movies, and then here he is smack dab in the middle of a Fincher film, which a lot is expected of you. And yeah, you're right. Garfield, he carries a big chunk of the movie. He's great, but I still think Eisenberg is the standout because he starts a certain way and he maintains that absolute dickheadedness through the whole fucking movie. And I love when what's her name from The Office? She's got that really small part. She's at the near the end, and she's like, I know you think you're a dick, but you're really just basically, doing your best job to be a dick when you're not that guy. You want to be that guy, but you're not, and you try so hard to do it. And that, I think that encapsulates, and I think that's what makes his role great, because, like I said, he's got to play this amplified version of Zuckerberg, who's probably a complete fucking dick during this time period. Absolutely. He can say it's not accurate, but come the fuck on. He created the site originally to rate people's appearance. The dude is not, maybe it was just a stupid movie excuse, like, oh, my girlfriend dumped me, so I'm gonna be a cocksucker now and fucking will rate all these people. Yeah. And it's like, even if that part's not true, that Zuckerberg was in college at the time. The Winklevoss twins are largely put into this film and talked about how they're fucked over. Then you got the Napster guy whose name escapes me, so we'll just say Fucking JT Napster dude.
JT.
His name like Sean something.
Who fucking cares?
Fuck him. But he was a big deal when we were younger, though.
No, he
because,
was.
You know, you had We'll bring up Metallica every episode, I'm convinced.
Probably.
James and Lars are fucking outraging against Napster. And you can take whatever side you want at the time, but looking back in 2024, they were fucking right. You know, they were about what happened to music in terms of file sharing and just the overall murder of the record industry, which, hey, some people want that because record industry guilty of the same shit as Hollywood. And, you know, some people wanted to see that burn. And I get it. Fuck you, because it ruined music. So
it did, but South Park made such good fun of it. Look at this. If you share files, Diddy won't be able to buy his son an island.
The Britney Spears has a DVD in her or DVD player in her jet, but it doesn't even have a remote or whatever it was. Just hella funny, ridiculous shit.
Yeah,
but
I'll never forget it because of that. But no, you're right. They were right in the end. But here's the thing: is that Zuckerberg does win the carrying the movie, but only because he's in it more. And I understand I understand like him coming from Zombieland and those things to playing this role. It's no diss to him. I am one of the few that like him as the Lex Luthor he plays in Batman vs Superman. But besides that, it's just that Andrew Garfield, that one scene is the one I think of whenever I think of this movie.
Now, are you talking about the scene where Zuckerberg kind of officially cuts him out of the deal and he walks into their new like headquarters, and then and JT
Napster's there, and he's in his black suit.
It's a great
and he's like, "I'm out of the company.
Yeah.
You cut me out. How?" And he's yelling at them, but also he starts piecing together everything what happens, and you see it in his eyes. I cannot give Andrew Garfield enough dick sucking for that scene. It is just. It's just really good.
So you heard that, Garfield. If you're looking for some dick sucking,
I'm not gonna suck his dick. He's not Justin Timberlake. But I'm just saying, like, when I look at actors and stuff, it's not only what they can do, but what they can portray. And when someone can portray that kind of emotion, it's something to take note of.
Right.
And that's why. And he's just a good actor.
No, yeah.
Again, he steals the show in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yep.
Steals it.
I mean, he's a great actor. He's in a lot of shit that's actually really good. Obviously,
Ridge.
All the shit's gonna escape me right now. I don't think I've seen that one, to be honest with you.
It's a weird movie. The dude won't kill anybody. He's in World War II. He's a medic, but he will not, because he's like a God-fearing man, and God says you don't use weapons or you don't kill another man. I mean,
interesting.
And so he does not, but he still goes out to war, heals men, and all that stuff. It's a good movie.
That's wild.
Yeah, but
I'll check it out.
But anyways, no, this movie is good, even if they want to say it's not real. Like, who's to say it is? Who's to say it isn't?
Well,
especially when I believe there's 3 sides to every story, and in this version, there's probably 13 sides to this story.
Oh yeah,
because when you're jaded, you view it differently. When you're like Mark Zuckerberg in 20 years will probably be like, yeah, the movie was pretty accurate.
It was pretty dead on accurate, actually. Well, that's weird because you said it wasn't. But
yeah, but no, yeah. It's a great movie, and again, another weird departure for David Fincher. Like when you're considering Alien 3, 7, The Game, Panic Room, and then Benjamin Button.
And then the social network.
And the Social Network's not like a happy movie.
No.
But it's Zodiac than the Social Network. But it's just, I don't know, like, how he picks and chooses his movies, it seems carefully, because as I was mentioning to you before, he was in the running for Batman Begins, the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. He's been up for a lot of prominent movies today that we have, which I just want to say, a trilogy, the Nolan trilogy being the Fincher trilogy would have been something crazy to think about, especially given his repertoire. But
Brad Pitt probably would have been Batman.
Can you imagine?
Can you think of that? Like,
what would his Batman voice be? Hey, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I can't do a Brad Pitt.
You know what's crazy is in Benjamin Button, he sounds like, I'm gonna fuck his name up, but I'm just gonna call him Obi-Wan Kenobi. His narration. What is it? Is it Awen? Awen?
What?
Not the original Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the one from the newer series. Ewan McGregor?
Oh, Ewan McGregor?
Is it Ewan?
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 EWAN, I think. Ewan.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name. So Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I was so confused. I was like, "Who the fuck are you talking about?" But I think it's Ewan McGregor. Just one of those British fucking names.
Okay.
Like almost like Owen, but British people got to do different. So he's Ewan.
So is it like Owen for
McGregor.
us?
I don't know. It's weird because it's spelled differently, but I get what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah. But another thing I want to bring up about this movie, and I said we were gonna hone back to it.
Okay.
But that's the inclusion of now Trent Reznor. It's the first score he composes with Atticus Ross for David Fincher, and it starts he pretty much does every single David Fincher movie after this.
Really?
Yeah, they kind of start onto a new, because at that time period, Nine Inch Nails had gone through a lot of changes, and Atticus Ross jumped on, and Atticus Ross was like a producer for a lot of rock bands at the time, notably Coheed and Cambria, and he did I think their fourth album, fifth and sixth. He did some of their shit, and then Nine Inch Nails dissolved what they originally were known for and kind of migrated into this new form that included Atticus Ross. So the two of them started to score Fincher films, and I think maybe everything but Mank they score.
And that's something from Fincher's past, actually, because when he did the music videos, he did a Nine Inch Nails music video.
He did.
And
they're friends.
He also, so this is crazy. He's really good friends with Madonna, but he turned down doing a biopic about her.
Interesting.
Maybe because it would cause some
turmoil, or
because look at Social Network.
Interesting.
But
I'd probably still like to see him take that project on in the future, because Madonna's just getting older. She's going to need to find new ways to stay relevant. What better way to do that than biographical film by our boy David Fincher?
Yeah,
I'd be down with it.
So even though to me these last couple movies, even Zodiac, are kind of a different style of movies for Fincher.
Yeah.
It's still good. Like, it shows his versatility in a great way.
I think a lot of what you're talking about too stems from getting older. Like the movies he chooses as an angrier, younger man. I don't know if he was angry, but based on a lot of his previous choices, he seems like maybe he was a darker, more angry guy, or maybe just disturbed in a way. And then he started reading books more, because you tend to do that in your older age. You start picking up more literature and reading more, and then he starts picking all these, like, oh, I read that book and that book was awesome. And it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the studio comes to you with an adaptation that they want to do, and you just read a treatment and you're like, all right, I'll fucking do that movie. So it could be both. Maybe he's never read any of these books. Again, I don't know David Fincher. I'm just saying, based on what we're talking about and the timeline of him choosing movies to do, I think getting older plays into your decision making, and you're going to choose more deep films, even though you could argue his shit was deep from the start, but he's choosing things that are different for him, but almost similar territory at the same time.
No, you're right. And it changes just your perspective. So it's going to change your movies, your music. Like you said, getting older, you read a lot more books. Anthony Ranieri from Bayside, the lead singer, he reads a ton of books apparently now. And a ton of his music's based around those stories, or stuff like that. And like you said, he's probably the same for Fincher. He's read these books and he comes across these opportunities to do them, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do Gone Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Again, easy for him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Easy for him. But I agree with you. I think like his older movies were very angry and very dark. I mean, even Zodiac, the whole movie feels like it's done on a foggy day in San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
Like the whole fucking movie, like they just had bad weather for a long time.
He's good at fitting, or like Seven, like we talked about. We don't know
Just
if that's
setting.
Chicago. We don't know if that's New York.
Yeah,
We have no fucking idea, but those are the places that come to mind based on the fogginess, the darkness, the grittiness, and that's cool because you never really get an answer, but you're in it because you're seeing it. And I don't know, sometimes that changes, but I think he's great at picking that shit and sticking with it through the whole movie too, which is
definitely
sometimes people fucking fuck up.
But it's also crazy like what he must be reading because, or what he's looking at, because his movies are so different, but they're still kind of the same up until now.
Right.
Like, Seven, all of them had this dark kind of against the world, and then Benjamin Button's like this optimistic outlook on the world. I may be 62 looking, but I feel 15. Like, I don't know, and
it's definitely different, a flip-flop kind of in a way.
And I haven't seen his last two movies, like I said, but even with Gone Girl, it's got such a crazy feel to it, dark feel, but the movie's done in like this weird, it doesn't feel so dark. Like there's a lot of daylight, there's a lot of this and that. I don't know.
I get you.
Just not the usual darkness he had early on.
Right. No, yeah. He does retain it, but it shifts and changes. And for me, Social Network is another 9 out of 10. Maybe that's shocking. But like I said, I really love the way he approaches that movie and overall execution, choice of actors, attention to detail. It feels like the culmination of some of his other movies into one movie. So I don't know where you rate it. I'm guessing a 7.5.
No, you know what? I rate that one probably an 8.
Okay.
And not that I would recommend this movie to anybody, but you are right. Just the way he went about making this movie, it still has this darker undertone to it. The acting in it from Jesse, from JT, our boy, and Andrew Garfield was phenomenal. And it's just a great movie. It's a great movie. And I'm not a fan of Facebook. I use it. I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg. But for this being a story about that and about them, it's great. It's done great where it's interesting, not just some boring college tech kids.
Yeah. It's the adult MySpace. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all it is. But no, I think 8 out of 10 for that one.
Interesting.
Again, Andrew Garfield's probably the biggest reason that scene sticks out to me.
It's a great scene. It really is.
And like you said, it's it's a mix of the actor and the director. And apparently, from what I understand, working with David Fincher is tough because he does many takes of the same scene just to make sure he gets, I guess, the organic feeling of it, and it's whatever. But I guess it's frustrating for the actors because they'll do like 50 takes of the same scene and then delete 35 of them.
I mean, they get paid either way, so they can quit their bitching.
True that, but still,
because I get that process. You want 50 takes, the stiffness and the nervousness is going to go away after the first 10. Then you get in another 10 of the actor's interpretation and tweaks. And then maybe you take another 10 of the environment and surroundings and how they react. And I can get wanting to not only do that for that reason, but to also edit different things that worked out from different scenes into other scenes that worked well and getting like a masterful shot. And I think, if they get pissed at him, fuck them. Because that's why we talk about directors. That's why I talk about directors, because they're like puppeteers and,
they're the puppeteers show. And the actors are their puppets.
Exactly. And they probably wouldn't like that because it sounds degrading, but it's not. It's just like, you guys are a useful tool to get the point across. And some of you are way better than others, but the studios, the directors, the production crew, they are the ones that pull out all the stops and make this badass movie, you know. And
so I've got just an way off question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel new actors these days are more prone to being doomed in their roles due to these sequels and requels and remakes because they're so much more confined than, say, like, you know, earlier movies like Requiem for a Dream, Seven, you know, where there was a lot more room to wiggle?
I just think that, like we've talked about it many times already, I think the climate of movie making is totally different. So what worked for the older directors and actors doesn't work in the same way now because, like we talked about, freedoms, we talked about maybe actors being too selective with their roles. And if we look back, a lot of people get their start in sequels or remakes or one-off horror movies like Jennifer Aniston in Leprechaun, or like, you know, movies you wouldn't expect to see them in.
Yeah.
That still happens till this day. I question it a little bit more, like when Tom Holland is Spider-Man, but he's also over here trying to be Nathan Drake, and he's nothing like Nathan Drake, but we put him in the movie anyway. He signs up for it because he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna make hella more money. Why wouldn't I do this shit? You know, I don't think there's really an artistic merit in that, but I think that's always existed for all actors and actresses.
Okay.
They probably, it's like they joke about in Kevin Smith's Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He's like, you do the one good movie for your friend, and then you do the comeback movie because your friend says you owe him, or what. I forget how they word it, but it's like the understanding where, you know, they do the artsy pick and the one they might get an Oscar for, and then they do shitty movies like the joke in that movie is that Giggly or however you pronounce that shit with Ben Affleck and J-Lo. Like, you're gonna have your stinkers. Nobody's perfect. Even people like De Niro, DiCaprio, Pacino, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, they've all got stinkers in their, you know, their repertoire because you can't be on all the time. And that's why I like focusing on the director more often, because the director can be on all the time. If he or she has enough resources at their disposal, they can continue to be great using and adapting the new actors, mixing them with the old actors, giving them a little bit more prestige, you know? And I just think the approach is different. So to answer your question, the approach is different. So I don't judge it in quite the same way. And I have to do that because if I don't, it's going to be angry man yelling at cloud all the time and all new things suck, which I don't feel that way. No. But there is that level of comparison that I can't really bleed into because I don't want to be unfair to the newer generation. It's not their fault the climate's different. It just is different. The world is different. So
nope, you're right.
And it's happened with every decade, especially in movies. 70s to 80s is completely different. Pushing the envelope, going the different route. 80s to 90s, cleaning it up a little bit, more family-friendly dramas and comedies and shit. 2000s getting more into the like serious drama tone. Every decade, whether it be horror, comedy, whatever, they all have their shifts. So, like I said, just kind of harder climate, really.
That's a good answer, and I do like you bringing up the comparison of like a lot of these famous actors these days are from horror movies because, you know, we've talked about Sigourney Weaver quite a bit with the Alien franchise. Right. And that's kind of where she really got her start.
Yeah.
But
Kevin Bacon, Friday the 13th, you know, he's in the first one. He fucking gets killed in that movie and you're like, I'll probably never see that fuck again. Oh, wait, it's Kevin Bacon.
Oh, wait, it's the Baconator.
Someone who your brother despises with every inch of his being, which is always fucking funny.
You know what's funny is I dislike him, he hates him, and I've always wanted to get a picture of Bacon that's a picture of Kevin Bacon, made of bacon.
I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure
it is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get it. So here we've got the next movie. And this one is an American version of this Swedish movie. Is it Swedish?
It's a set of books. Came out in 2011. it's a set of books by Stieg Larsson. There are like 3 to 5 of them, I think, and it's like the girl with the dragon tattoo, the girl with the dragon's nest, or I don't know what the fuck they're called.
The girl who kicked the hornet's nest. Yeah, I know these movies, but wasn't there a Swedish like original or?
No, the Swedish movies are also based on the Stieg Larsson books. Sweden was just the first. They were the first to tackle them as novels.
Okay.
And then I don't know what the plan was for Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and David Fincher and doing all 3 of them. I think actually he did say at the time, you know, we will do all 3, but then the studio shit, that shit we always talk about, fell through and he didn't get to finish them. But
that makes sense.
If I always tell people when I recommend this movie to them, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo 2011 is 9 Inch Nails if 9 Inch Nails was a movie. That's
absolutely
the perfect way to describe it to me. You got Daniel Craig in this bitch.
What a weird... I just want to say that.
What?
Daniel Craig in this movie is an odd choice. Not that he did bad.
No, yeah.
Nothing against Daniel Craig.
Definitely odd.
But our James Bond man in this movie, it's interesting.
But it's that thing again where he's a journalist and he teams up with Rooney Mara, who we actually didn't even mention, but she was also in The Social Network.
Yeah.
She's the one that dumps Zuckerberg's ass.
Good.
But Rooney Mara really good as well, and the two of them get together and, you know, try to solve a 40-year-old murder crime or a murder case, and I like that. You know, she's a hacker. He's a journalist. There's no cop.
Right up your alley.
Exactly.
It's right up your alley.
And I loved it at the time.
Okay.
I did not rewatch this one either. It's been a really long time since I've seen this one. It's not one of my favorites, though. I loved it at the time because it was the fresh new Fincher film. It was good. I liked it. I think it still holds up. I did watch it maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. But I have not watched it in the deep dive sense, because some of these movies I just don't need to rewatch, you know, like I remember them pretty well as a film buff, as a movie guy, that I'm not going to sit down and rewatch it. I do that on movies that need a refresh, or if I'm just super biased, like I did rewatch Seven, I did rewatch Gone Girl, I did rewatch Killer, but those are my 3 favorites. So
I am shocked you didn't watch this, because this is, you know, your style of movie outside of being a gangster movie.
It is.
This is kind of your bread and butter for crime movie.
I think that it never got finished with the other 2 parts of the story is what throws me off. And I didn't read those books, so I'm not like, oh, you fucked me. Like, I thought maybe it would be kind of cool finally for Fincher to do, you know, a sequel and a 3rd one and maybe have his own. Because a lot of directors have their trilogy, or they have their 1 or 2 movies in their repertoire that are theirs, and it's their spin. Obviously, like Christopher Nolan in the Dark Knight trilogy, and, you know, Scorsese. He's not much of a sequel guy, but he'll stick with the gangster theme like 3 times in a row. And I was kind of hoping Fincher would do this, but overall, I do love it. I probably should have rewatched it. I probably might have rewatched it if I could have fit it in, but time constraints are a bitch when you're trying to do 12 movies in someone's filmography. And
oh, fuck yeah.
Like I said, I've seen it multiple times, so it's not like I'm new to it. It isn't like, I've only seen it once, I'm going to talk out my ass. No, I've seen it, and I love it, but, yeah, I don't know. Well, how do you feel about it? Because you don't typically strike me as a 9 Inch Nails-y kind of guy. And the only reason I say that is because they're really dark and angry, and I've never really gotten that vibe from you. But not to say this movie is exclusively 9 Inch Nails-y, but that's just how I picture it. It's very dark. It's very against the grain. It reminds me of Trent Reznor. Maybe that's just me.
So I don't know 9 Inch Nails that much. I know the drummer is with Angels and Airwaves now. Mm-hmm. But it is my kind of movie. I kind of associate this movie kind of like with The Jacket.
Okay.
You know, it's just a darker tone. Like you said, if I would say for me, like if Scream, like Devil Wears Prada was a kind of a movie, these would be them. Very dark, very gothic, very, I don't know. I like it. And I do like the detective or journalist type aspect of the movie. One thing I will say might be next to Alien, my least favorite of these. Not in terms of being bad like Alien, but it's above Alien in my Fincher list. I haven't seen The News 2, so I can't say that's a definitive. I'm going to watch those real soon. But as of what I've seen, it's kind of at the bottom of my list. Not that it's a bad movie, but I just had no interest. And like you said, it's kind of a story left unfinished.
Yeah.
So like, it's hard to really like it when you know probably it won't ever get refinished. Because it's now, 13 years on. Daniel Craig probably won't come back. You know, who knows what'll happen if Fincher is ever going to finish it.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too. So
I really don't
it's kind of like that book you read the first part, but there's never another part. So you're just left wondering.
Yeah.
I mean, there is books to it. But
and it does have a conclusion for its contained story.
Yeah.
It's just, we don't get to see Elizabeth ever again for Fincher's version. And I think, Rooney Mara did a good job, so I would have liked to see, because from what I understand, as those stories go along, they get crazier. She goes into hiding or something, or takes on a different persona and disappears for a while, and then I think maybe Daniel Craig needs to find her again, or some shit. I mean, I don't really know, but I would have liked to see more of Fincher and Mara, and maybe even Daniel Craig. Does he die in that movie? No, he doesn't die in that movie. Okay. Like I said, it's been a while since I watched it. I was pretty sure he survived, but either way, would have been good to see part 2 and 3 cap it off nicely as a trilogy. But I still give it an 8 out of 10. I like it. It's solid, but I've been giving them a 9s, so this is the first kind of step back from the 9 to give it an 8, which is still stellar, because, he don't miss. This motherfucker does not miss.
Oof,
just saying.
I'm 6.9.
Wow. That's brutal. That's brutal for the Fincher ranking so far.
Look, it is. Well, no, not compared to Alien. Alien's at like a 4 or 5. It depends on how kind I am that day. If I woke up with a stick up my ass, it's probably a 3 to match Alien 3. No, I'm talking about Alien 3, not Girl with the Dragon.
I was like,
one out of here.
3? No fucking way.
No. No, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, like I said, it's kind of like watching the first Harry Potter movie, and that's it.
Yeah, I can get that.
The story is contained, but the overall
arc is left undone.
Is done, and you don't know anything else.
Blue balls.
Yeah, exactly.
Balls.
But I do, like I said, I like the feeling of the movie. It has that same Fincher kind of darkness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I am still shocked Daniel Craig was in it. I guess just because at this time, he's hyped up as James Bond. And
was he already James Bond at this point? He was, 2011.
Yeah, because I think Casino Royale is 2006.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. We will definitely have to do a James Bond, probably 2, even 3-parter,
dude,
because that is not something to really be taken lightly with how big he is to pop culture. And
we probably have to do it justice and do it by actor
or era, like you were saying for Kiss. We could do each decade, but by actor makes pretty good sense.
Unless they're like 1 or 2 movies, then we can group 2 together. But like, we got to do Pierce Brosnan as an episode, because he's got 5 movies or 4?
I think 4.
GoldenEye, No World for
Bond,
Tomorrow.
I'll tell you that shit. That's the best Bond right there.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've always thought that Daniel Craig is badass, but he doesn't have that suave, like, fucking, I'm gonna get your girl even if she's married 3 times over. Like, he's very stone cold.
He was, and he was the perfect Bond for the 90s. Like, I love Roger Moore. Roger Moore, to me, is the basis for what we later see Austin Powers parody in a lot of ways. So he's like the original Bond, and I love Roger Moore. but then Pierce Brosnan is the best. Like for me, it's those two. Sean Connery is usually the popular opinion there, but we'll do it. We'll go by actor. I think George Lazenby is only in one Bond movie, so he fucking sucks too. So we'll just cover how shitty he and that shitty ass fucking movie is.
Hell yeah.
You know, I don't know if you're familiar with that story,
Not at
but
all.
George Lazenby showed up and demanded to be James Bond, even though he had no real prior acting experience. He just shows up, I want to be Bond. They're like, you know what, fuck it, be Bond. And some people like that movie. I don't. I gotta commend the balls to walk into him and be like, I'm wearing the Bond suit, make me Bond, bitch. I commend that, but yeah. Lots of different Bonds. We'll definitely deep dive that shit.
We'll have to.
But that brings us to 2014's Gone Girl, which would be his fucking best movie, if not for Seven. I love this movie. Second favorite for sure.
It's so good.
Rosamund Pike, if you're listening, I know you never would. I fucking love you. Coincidentally, first saw her in a James Bond movie, a Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie. And then she goes on to be in, countless other movies. She's a fucking great actress. Her, Ben Affleck, Tyler Perry, and what's probably his best role is that lawyer. Dude's fucking so good in that small part.
This movie, I didn't know it was a book when I first watched it. I put it on randomly. I was like, let's watch this.
Yep.
Fuck me, did it take me for a ride, dude.
Oh, absolutely.
It was like the horse and I was the unexperienced rider. I just fucking bucked my ass off, man. The switch in that movie, like I thought Ben Affleck did it.
Yeah, right.
Like the first part of that movie, I'm like, dude, this is almost too damning, but not, because you seem pretty angry.
I think that's a twist we were all waiting for. Like, did he do this off screen? Because we saw him the whole time, so we're like, this is pretty convincing.
And the way they kind of paint Amy, and also, the book she's in, just who her persona was, and then when it does that switch where she's in the car, that shitty fucking car, driving away, eating all the food she wants, whatever, fucking, I was like, what's going on? Am I gay? No, it's just
question everything moment.
Question everything moment, because the way they painted, and again, David Fincher back to twisting the story, which again is in a book. But he's still really good at setting that up, and I was fooled. I had my shirt pulled over my head, like I love it. I love that movie, and I want to say I love Ben Affleck.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Got some bad marks on his shit.
They all do.
But god damn it, I love his Batman too.
I think he's great too because he's a director, so he knows what it's like to be behind and in front of the camera, like Clint Eastwood, and you can give really great performances based with that double knowledge, because not every actor is a director, and not every director is an actor, So I think that really helps Ben Affleck, and then for him to be in a Fincher movie, who, motherfuckers in everyone's movies. Dude. Surprised he hasn't been in a fucking Scorsese film or something at this point. Hopefully, though.
For real.
Someday.
I also really like this movie because of how fucked up it becomes. Like, first you think Ben Affleck's a murderer. Then you think, oh, fuck, she's just fucked him so bad.
Yep.
And then you see how fucking diabolical she really is. Plus how disgusting Neil Patrick Harris's character is. Yeah. Just he's just another twat, great performance.
An undermining twat.
Yeah, and another great performance by him, and
Carrie Coon as well. She plays Ben Affleck's sister.
Yes.
Really love her. She's in Ghostbusters Afterlife. She's one of the good things about the movie. She's Egon's long lost daughter, and I like Carrie Coon, and I think she deserves a shout out too. Really, I want everyone in the audience give this movie a good fucking round, because like you're saying, it takes you for a ride. You really don't know what to expect. The movie does several 180s on you where you're like, oh fuck, it wasn't this, it was that, it wasn't this, it was that. And it's based on a book, but David Fincher and and company fucking they pick it up, they lay it down, and they fucking give you Gone Girl, and it's stellar. It's if you have not seen Gone Girl and you're a fan
yourself.
of crime twisty movies with a lot of shit going on, but with really good performances where everybody just kills it, I really, really recommend Gone Girl. If you were to go over us doing the filmography here and you want to take what you will from it, for me, Seven, Gone Girl. Those are your two go-tos. I'm sure you've all fucking seen Fight Club anyway.
Yeah,
so,
Fight Club's not in the conversation, but the ending of the movie, what she says to him in the shower, where she basically lays out like, he's like, I'm not going to let you get away with this. And she's basically like, what the fuck are you going to do?
Right.
Everybody thinks I'm the victim. If you come out and leave me, you're the bad guy.
Exactly. It's chilling.
Oh my God.
Makes you not want to date. Good thing you have a girlfriend, because that type of shit right there is pretty much like, fuck the dating market.
Dude, I don't even trust her because of this movie. I'm like, bitch, if I ever come home to something like that, I'm going to know you pulled a fucking...
You Gone Girled me.
God damn it, I'm Ben Affleck.
You can call me Ben Affleck now.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't be upset. I mean, my brother would be Carrie Coon.
I'm not cool with that because I really like Carrie Coon sexually. So
you want to see her coon?
I do. I would love to see her coon. Actually, I've seen it. She's pretty free with it in movies.
Is she?
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Mr. Skin. Remember that website that would tell you like where all the actresses had been naked in movies? There's modern versions of that. Like they talk about Knocked Up. Like, don't you just want to go to a database that has all the actresses naked? So you can
called
just go
the Fappening.
It's fucking...
It's called the Fappening.
Is that what they call it in the movie?
No, that's what it really is called now.
Oh, interesting.
If you want to see any actor, actress, hopefully actress.
Yeah.
Even if you're a girl, hopefully actress.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Ass. Let's go. But yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. I don't think there's a ton to say about Gone Girl in that regard, because it's one of those movies you just got to sit down and watch and, take it all in. Don't be on your fucking phone. Watch the movie. Watch everything play out.
Put your fucking phone down.
Yeah, watch Rosamund Pike blow your fucking mind, because that's what she fucking does. And,
dude,
she steals that show. I know you were kind of standoffish at me saying that about Jesse Eisenberg, but motherfucking Rosamund Pike, she steals that show. I don't care if Ben Affleck's there. I don't give a fuck.
I'm a fan.
She's the queen of that movie. She kills it.
I'm a fan of Anne Affleck, but you're right. She made the movie.
Yeah,
just how fucking evil she sounds, and the way she's just fucking two-faced so fast. It's incredible. She steals it. And so before I tell you my rating, is this your favorite David Fincher movie?
No, 7. 7 is still the best.
For sure.
If 7 didn't exist,
because you
Gone
rate
Girl would
both.
be number 1.
You rate both 10s.
Yeah. No, 7 is still first.
Okay.
Because at my core, I'm a noir guy. I love that dark, gritty shit.
You do.
I love that detective serial killer shit. And 7 to me is the perfect. There isn't a better serial killer film in my mind than 7. So
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, there's just not. I don't care who you are. And there are plenty of clones. Like there's that John Goodman, I think it's Denzel Washington movie called Fallen, where they're trailing like a supernatural serial killer. It's very good. It's not as good. Then Silence of the Lambs. That's like right below 7. I think 7 is just a little bit better because you almost see where the John Doe mind is cooking when he finally gets captured. And to me, that brings everything full circle. With James Gumb in Silence of the Lambs, you're kind of thrown for a loop for a little while with Hannibal.
Yep.
So you don't get as involved with him until the end. And it's similar with Kevin Spacey as John Doe, but since he's leaving calling cards and all this shit for Morgan Freeman to figure out, it's just so fucking good. I just can't. That's his best movie. If it wasn't for that, Gone Girl all the way. But yeah, it's great.
9.5.
That's fair.
So
it's pretty fucking solid. That's gotta be your favorite one based on that rating.
It is.
Based on whatever. Okay, all right.
It is.
That makes sense.
And this is the thing. I don't think Seven is a great movie, but I don't know, something about Gone Girl. I just watch it more. I want to see it more.
I get it.
And when I watch Seven, I obviously I love the movie. I think it's fucking great. Great performances again. But with Gone Girl, I guess when the way it took me for those loops just kind of constantly is just what I love in movies, just these crazy twists. And that's not saying Seven doesn't have great ones, but Gone Girl, just like I said, the way that Rosamund Pike just kind of shows you these dualities of who she is.
Right.
This perfect character to everybody else, to the media, to everyone. But then this complete, not even two-face, it's like a three-face. She just becomes, I can't get over it. It's like the true malice of what you can be.
Right.
And I don't know. And again, Seven's got a great story, great everything. But yeah, I think Gone Girl, I like a little bit more.
Hell yeah. Respect. Because, no one can deny that. If it wasn't for my individual biased shit with, detectives and killers and shit, I would agree. But Seven it nails it. And, that brings us to our final stretch. And I know these will be a lot shorter because you haven't seen them.
This is my fault, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal. Like I said, it's there is more recent movies. One of them, I think, is only available on Netflix, The Killer. So that brings us to 2020's Mank. Couple things I'll just throw out there is this movie is also based on a book. And it's about Herman J. Mankiewicz. He's the guy that wrote the screenplay to Citizen Kane, which is a big movie that, most people revere as like one of the greatest movies of all time.
I've never seen it.
Well, you're not really missing much. I do like the movie. I've been a fan, but that's one of those Fight Clubs for me where it's just like really overrated. It was ahead of its time in a lot of the camera work at the time, and Orson Welles, he's one of those old school actors I love and appreciate.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about this movie, it was written by David Fincher's late father, Jack Fincher. And he had passed away, so he adapted this movie based on his father's screenplay, and I love that. So I had to throw that out there. And I also really love when movies are about making other movies. And a couple examples of that are like Bart and Fink by the Coen brothers, which we'll be diving those motherfuckers 100%. We got, Ed Wood. There's a Tim Burton film about the really shitty director Ed Wood, who would make really crazy B shitty horror movies for his time, and it's right up Tim Burton's alley if you've never seen that. And then there's like Disaster Artist, the movie about making The Room, which is a good one. Or like more recently, I think it was like 2014 or 15, around the same time as The Gone Girl, but Hitchcock. They made a movie where somebody played Hitchcock, and Scarlett Johansson was playing, I think, Janet Leigh from Psycho, and like it was him making Psycho. So it was a movie about making a movie, and it happens. It's tight. Shadow of the Vampire with Willem Dafoe is the making of Nosferatu. So anyway, I like that, and I thought I'd bring it up. And that's basically what Mank is about, because you haven't seen it. So it's that. It's just, I wrote Citizen Kane. I'm also this other dude, and it's about both of those things, and that's pretty much all it is at the end of the day. So,
hey, shout out to American Horror Story Roanoke.
Oh yeah,
they did. Obviously, it wasn't on a real movie, but I thought that duality was kind of really cool how they did it.
Yeah, stuff like that's always interesting in film. It gives it a little bit more interesting aspects and some longevity and relevance to pop culture and shit. So I would rate Mank at probably An 8.
Okay.
What would you rate it at?
Oh, man, I would say an 8's a great
Straight
number.
0 out of 10.
I do want to say this about his 2 newer movies.
Mm-hmm.
IMDb rates them lower than everything else.
I'm not surprised in this fucking internet era of critics and everybody's a fucking expert.
So Mank ranks the same as Panic Room. Alien is at a 6.4, Mank is 6.8, and The Killer is 6.7. People, obviously, it could be affected, like you said, because he went quite a while, it looks like, between Gone Girl and Mank. It's
because he was doing that show Mindhunter. Do you remember that show? That's David Fincher as well.
Really?
He was doing, like, that show's so fucking good. They should have never canceled it. Again, about serial killers, about it. Mindhunter is the thing that inspired Thomas Harris to write about Hannibal Lecter, because Mindhunter is based on a book from a long time ago about serial killer profilers like the FBI that existed before that. And all of that shit ties in, which is what's awesome. But he was preoccupied with that show and a couple other little projects before Mank landed. And one thing I forgot to mention is Gary Oldman is the main character in Mank. Gary Oldman is the master. Gee. So worth watching. I don't know that you would love it based on its subject matter, because if you've never seen Citizen Kane, it's like, why do you care? Why would you even give a fuck?
I don't give a fuck about who made Facebook, but that movie's good.
Touche.
So it's just how you present it.
Yeah.
The Mark Ruffalo Darkwater movie about Teflon and DuPont.
Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck really cares? Like, it's a really bad thing that happened, but generally, if you talk about what it's about, it sounds boring as fuck.
Oh, for sure.
And then when you watch it, I was absolutely captured by that movie.
That's the beauty of filmmaking. Like, people can
make it.
You can get into things that you wouldn't normally care about because it's being shortened and condensed into one entertaining viewing, kind of, or not. Sometimes it doesn't land and it's complete garbage, but yeah, that's the thing. So maybe you will like Mank. I don't know. Really depends. If you like biography movies with great acting, but I feel like it would probably fall in the same category as Oppenheimer for you. You'd watch it once, probably never recommend it.
It doesn't mean it's bad, but...
No. 8 out of 10 for me, though. Like I said, still really great, but nothing compared to 2023's The Killer, which... that one I really hope you do watch, because...
I'm going to, because I love I love Gary Oldman, but I also really love Michael Fassbender.
And there's this movie, dude. It's Michael Fassbender playing an assassin who is fucked over with a personal vendetta against those who fucked him over. I mean, again, soundtrack by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, which they did do Mank, by the way. I wrote it all down here.
Yeah,
they did Social Network, Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Mank, and The Killers. So since Social Network, they've had a really solid relationship with him. And the coolest thing, though, is Killer is based on a book of the same name by Alex Noland. And I thought that was cool because, again, he follows this pattern of either written works or a book or something that inspires the films from basically Fight Club forward. And my favorite thing, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but I'm a huge fan of the Smiths.
Yeah.
The Smiths do 11 tracks for this movie. Well, they don't do, they're not new songs, but they're picked from their discography, from their career, and they're made, because Michael Fassbender's character as an assassin has his little tics, and one of them is he's always listening to the Smiths when he's at work and he's doing his job, and it's fucking badass. And Fassbender, Tilda Swinton, again, a really great cast. A couple people I don't want to spoil since you haven't seen it that will kind of pop up as surprises, and then, you'll be like, oh shit, I know exactly who you're talking about. But dude, my third favorite movie, 10 out of 10.
Oh, another 10.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, I'll have to get to
you gotta watch it. It's like a return to form for him in a lot of ways, based on the subject matter and the execution. And again, it's not like he ever fell off, but it feels like a little bit of the older Fincher in the modern era, just for Netflix, so. which is becoming a bigger part of the trend of new movies like we talked about. Netflix is going out there getting the rights to one movie like a David Fincher film, and that's where Mindhunter was. So I'm sure it's in that same line of thinking. Like, we got David Fincher, who's this big deal. He did this show for us. We canceled it, but we probably still got him on contract or retainer, or for some reason. But the killer is only there. So, as a physical movie collector myself, will I get a copy of The Killer ever? I sure as fuck hope so. But it's just hopefully. Like a Barbarian. That movie is exclusively on like Peacock or something, and or maybe Hulu. And who knows if that'll ever show the light of day. So that's the thing about it I don't like. But
they did a Prey release, and they've done releases here and there. So hopefully
it does still happen. It's just with the death of physical media, and I'm talking to you fuckers out there that are so content with your bullshit streaming. Fuck you. Fuck.
Don't look at me.
All of that shit. Just collect your shit. You can bring up the room excuse, but what do you need that room for? Just buy physical media, you bitches. But anyway, that's just
it's hard because
fuck that.
Ease is always easier.
Yeah, but you don't actually own anything you love that way. Netflix can pull the trigger and just say, fuck it, you love Dumb and Dumber? Well, it's not on here anymore. And a lot of people that I've talked to, especially in the line of work I'm in, will come into my store and they're like, hey, do you have movies? And I'm like, no, because you fuckers stopped caring about them. So now they're not worth it for us to buy them or resell them. And everyone has followed suit. So if you live in the LA area, take advantage of your Amoeba Musics and your Rasputins, and anywhere that you have a record store, don't let them die.
That's don't let them die. Say.
Buy from them, like NSYNC and shit. Fucking always be buying physical media if you're into it. Obviously, if you're not, roll with streaming. But if you're a collector, it's going to come back around. There's going to be that time period where you're like, oh, I wish I still would have had this. And
well, think of it like this: not Brad Pitt, but Matt Damon worded it perfectly. Why aren't these weird movies being made? They were talking about Good Will Hunting, and he's like, do you think Good Will Hunting would be made today? And he says no. He's and the biggest reason is DVD sales. He said that movies, they could make a movie and not worry about the theater release because they could fall back on the DVD sales.
Absolutely.
And with the death of physical media, the studios don't have that to fall back on to recoup their money. So which leads to them tightening their hold on what they do and tightening their hold on how it's done.
All that does is make me go back around to saying fuck you guys again, because you're stuck in this loop of like, I don't want to buy physical media, so you've basically helped kill that, but you're also now not going to the theaters either, so we're not getting that box office rush, and you're content with shit like the Crow remake.
I love
fuck you guys, dude. That's all I can say. Fuck you guys. I don't give a shit if that's popular.
You
stop being bitches.
The Crow.
Collect the music you like. Collect the fucking movies you like. Collect the video games you like. Yep. Buy books. Buy comic books. Buy magazines. Whatever you're into. Collect that shit. It's your hobby. Do it till it kills you. Don't be a bitch. Don't let that shit die.
Bring it back. Bring it back, because once it's all streaming, you own nothing.
Yeah, and when we're in post-apocalyptic times and the internet's gone, don't come knocking at my door for the next little blockbuster, because I'll charge your ass, and you'll have to rewind, even if they're fucking discs. I'll be like,
15 bottle caps.
No, yeah. But, so, that brings us to the end of David Fincher.
Ooh,
I think on the whole, we long-winded. Some of these might have to start being two-parters, because 2 hours and 40 minutes still doesn't seem like enough talking about some of these legends.
No,
but
definitely not.
That's David Fincher. On the whole, he's a top 5 director for me. Probably always will be. He's up there with some of the greats. I don't know what that list would be yet, but that might be an interesting episode in the future.
Absolutely.
Maybe we each rank, how we feel about those people and where they place in the history and annals of American cinema. What are your closing thoughts on Fincher, though? What you got?
I think he's a fantastic director. I think he's got a lot of the qualities I like in movies, just all together within him.
Right.
I got to see these 2 newer ones, but I don't doubt they're good because outside of Alien 3, you know, he's been a hitter. Maybe nothing will be as good as Seven or Gone Girl, but God damn it, they're all good. And that's even if you don't do 100 movies, the 12 you do are fucking great. The 10 I've seen, fantastic as fuck.
And I hope he's remembered like this the way people remember Stanley Kubrick, or, you know, because those people are certified legends.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, that's why I think it's so important we talk about directors, because the average moviegoer does not bring up, you know, maybe Christopher Nolan, because he was the start of that public consensus of maybe we should pay attention to these guys.
Absolutely.
But before him, you know, I'm not so sure, other than in the film buff universe, all of us who are movie nerds, we care about that shit. And I'm not saying you suck if you don't, but if you learn the directors and what goes into making the movie, it really helps you pick out your style, see what you're into more, and just see where directors will fall. If they're capable of comedy, drama, horror, thriller, you know, some directors do all of that into one project and they don't do multiple genres. And then some do. Like we bring up Scorsese all the time. Dude's done comedy, he's done drama, he's done thriller, he's done, you know, crime drama, action. He's a versatile director. So I love to see it, you know. And as long as this episode was, I still got to just give it to David Fincher and everyone involved in this movie. I think he just absolutely kills it. So those are my closing thoughts.
And I think him only doing 12 movies since 91 was
with Alien.
Alien was 91.
Yeah.
Well, since doing that, only 12 movies, but they're all great. It shows that if you're just more particular on what you do, it can be great instead of grabbing at every possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, you should always reach, but as David Fincher has shown, you know, when you choose the projects you want and stick to things that you know you can do great, you'll always do great for the most part.
Quality over quantity, as they say. You know?
Exactly.
Well, everyone, we thank you for listening. You know, you can catch us next week. Obviously, we'll have our normal side dive, and then we'll have our episode next Friday, which at this point, we're just going to leave a mystery because we're really bad at focusing in on what we're going to do for that week. Not because we don't stick to what we say, but we always want to deliver the most fresh content for you. Sometimes that's in the form of whatever movies are out in the theater.
Yep.
So that'll push other shit back, but we will never run out of content here at Deep Dive.
Ever.
So
we'll deep dive your mother.
That's right.
Send me a picture.
Get in all those nooks and crannies. One of those close-ups from like Ren and Stimpy where they show the really gross shit.
Oh, absolutely.
That's us with your mom. That's it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's it. That wraps episode 8. We will see you for episode 9 in about a week. And as always, this is your boy Crack.
Your boy Rex.
And we are out. Have a good week, guys.